Welcome to the Smark Foundation podcast. I'm Aaron. This is Adam.
Howdy, guys. How's it going?
And this week we're here to talk about all the AEW and WWE goodness that has come out of the week, as usual. Adam, do you want to run down our social medias, please?
Absolutely. I was prepared this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find us on Blue Sky. That is our official home now for social media content. Our official handle is at SMARKFNDNPODCAST.bsky.social. Mine is Adam Smark FNDN pod dot bsky.social. Aaron's is aaronsmark.bsky.social. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/at Smark Foundation Podcast. We also have, you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Pandora, pretty much anywhere that you stream your podcasts from normally. Are we still having trouble with Apple with distribution there? Are they still giving us issues?
Yes, we are. They are
Boo
very
and hiss.
and his. They are very anti me because I do not currently own an Apple device. And that is literally right now the difference between us being on there and being not. So I'm about to buy a cheap iPhone just so I can send them the code. Um,
Okay.
so
You know what though? I mean, honestly, Pandora is free, guys. Spotify for the you don't have to pay for Spotify for the normal account. And you can find us there that way very easily. And YouTube is free for literally everybody. We would very much like to get those views up. Actually, we always drop our streams on the podcast sites first, including our very own site, our very own home. You can find us there at that was the only one I didn't have posted up, but you can find us at Spotify, Pandora, YouTube. On YouTube, they go up a day later, and we post both the whole episodes and we chop them up into our segments for a little bit easier listening. I know, when I go to work, I like to have something on YouTube just like for the 20-minute ride to and from work that's a little bit more digestible. We try to we wind up with bigger segments than that usually by a little bit, but yeah, I find it a lot easier to digest in chunks like that. I know there are some of our listeners who only keep up with one brand or another. That's an excellent way to do it because we do them by how we cover it. So each show we cover is one show, next segment into the next show, into this next show, into the next show. So if you only follow AEW or if you only follow WWE, you can skip one of our voices and then go right to the end where we have our call in the ring segment. It's really, really convenient.
with that said, let's go ahead and get into our lockup for the week, and
Yeah,
that's our Raw
unfortunately, we don't
review.
have a lot of time to kind of yammer at you guys a little bit like we normally do because the Continental Classic is actually going to be releasing their the actual competitors at 11:30 my time, and right now it is 8:48 my time. And since we have a tendency to go long, we would like to participate in that live. So,
Yes, we would.
yes,
Yes, we
thank
would.
you, Aaron. I am going on way too long, and since it's your segment first, I will cede the time to you for the lockup.
All right. For the lockup this week, our Raw review. Okay, honestly, let me be upfront about this. The Raw and SmackDown reviews this week are going to be really short because the big point of both shows this week was to set up Survivor Series War Games, and War Games they did build. SmackDown was a little bit better than Raw this week, but Raw did have some stuff on it, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. First off, starting with Raw, it looks like the brand split is kind of. I know we have a world champion that's on Raw and a WWE champion or Universal champion that's on SmackDown. I think right now the brand split is becoming less of a thing. It's mostly because of War Games, just because there are people from different brands that are on the same team. Like both women's champions are heels, and they will both be featured on the heel side of the women's War Games match. So Monday, we found out who the women's War Games match would be. We've got Naya, uh, we've got Naya, Liv, Raquel, and then Nyla and Raquel, and then the other two were Oh, Candice LeRae and Tiffany Stratton. So that's our five heel women for the um that's our five heel women for the women's war games. So they were confronted then um towards the end of Raw by or towards the beginning of Raw. Actually, I think this happened like towards the beginning. Um, they were confronted by Jaden Bianca, Io Sky, and Bailey, and they were like, "Who's the fifth? Ha ha!" Liv's like, "Math isn't mathing here. There's four of you. There's five of us. You know how this is going to work out." At which point, Rhea Ripley's music hit, and she came out wearing a mask over her ocular socket injury, walked right into the ring, grabbed the microphone, screamed "War Games" into the microphone, and then headbutted Liv Morgan with the mask. It was
Well, I
probably
mean, I bet she pulls off undashing a little bit better than Cody Rhodes.
probably yeah, I would say yes actually, but yeah,
Knowing our proclivities, I think that's something we can agree on.
she smashed Liv with that, and then they all got into a brawl. Really super happy to see Jaden Bianca in there, representing on the War Games side. Io and Bailey seems kind of weird to me because don't they hate each other still? Um,
I mean, that's WWE logic for you, though. I mean, that's
yeah,
classic. Oh, this you betrayed me 4 months ago. Oh, it doesn't matter because one of us turned heel in the meantime or
yeah,
face in the meantime.
that's
So
kind of what happened with the
we
Cody
share a
Rhodes thing.
locker room, so we're all friends again.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened with the Cody Rhodes thing. Like now him and Roman Reigns are cool, even though they weren't. Like, I mean, so yeah, WWE logic at its best, I guess. But yeah, it's really weird because not only are they having Io and Bailey team up together inside this War Games match, but they're presenting Dakota Kai on her return with Damage Control as a face.
Hmm.
Um, so it's kind of weird to me because they've been heels for so long, but
It didn't
also
really organically turn, did
oh,
they?
they didn't really organically turn it. Just kind of abruptly are being presented this way. Which I
They
mean,
just started facing different people.
yeah, with Kyrie, I guess it's not really out of place because it's hard not to cheer her.
Yeah,
She's just kind of like
she's adorable and has the best top rope elbow in the
oh yeah,
business.
she's kind of like what's the girl on AEW that's her same like build?
Riho,
Riho. Yeah, it's like Riho. It's hard not to
Riho, we love Riho here.
yeah, it's hard not to root for them just because they're so minuscule in
Yeah,
size, but can really bump with substance, which is crazy.
yeah.
Like, and everybody who's listened to the show the entire time knows that I really like it when somebody can bump with substance, especially as a smaller person. So I think this is going to be a cool one. It kind of leaves me wondering what Dakota Dakota and Kyrie are going to do for this pay per view with Io and the tag team champions both being in War Games.
Yeah.
But they are kind of trying to determine a number one contender for the tag team titles right now. The same way they're trying to determine who's going to go into the U.S. title, tournament. Um, Bailey is our first person into the U.S. title tournament. I think that might have actually been last week, but we only had. Wait, hold on. I'm trying to think here.
I think that
Uh,
was last week. Yeah.
yeah, there. I think there was a match for who was going to go in this week, but maybe not. Maybe they just, I don't know. It was one of those ones where Raw was like breathable again, but it just didn't seem like there was a lot to it. Like I got through Raw and was like, what happened?
Mm.
Not that it was a bad show because I mean, obviously it's very memorable that they set up the women's War Games match, but other than that, they do have the men's War Games match kind of set up. So I believe it was last week Bronson Reed showed up and he was
Mm-hmm.
declared
Yep.
as fifth man for the new bloodline. This week on Raw, the OG bloodline a is still looking for a fifth guy. They're on Raw. A couple people get asked, but everybody's a no, basically. They asked. I think they even went so far as to ask Cody, and he was like no. Which we'll get to why that's a no later. Um, but but yeah, there's like it's basically right now we're just building towards war games is the big thing, and that's taking up 10 people on both brands, um, or on both sides, women and men. So we got 20 people in the war games matches, and so obviously the biggest point of all the shows right now is what's happening with that. We do have some littler stuff though. They are building some undercard stuff. We'll talk more about the women's U.S. title in the SmackDown review because they did do another match on SmackDown to determine another person in that part of the tournament.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it was on Raw, so I'm going to go and I'm trying to keep these kind of brief, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it now because it's something that happens on Raw pretty often, or that I see a lot. Um, I know I made this kind of gripe last week where I'm tired of seeing um, LA Knight face the same person over and over again for the U.S. title,
Yeah.
and now it looks like that's going to be the match at Survivor Series again.
Uh,
I am like I liked Umberto, but and I like their whole like faction, and the guy's name is just not playing in my head right now.
Who,
uh,
Angel Garza,
no,
his
it's
cousin.
the other one, not Umberto or Angel, but the other guy, Santos Escobar. There we go.
Oh yeah.
Santos. So it looks like they're going to go for like round 8 with Santos and LA Knight, and I'm not really into it, man. I'm just I kind of there's tons of people in your mid card. Please, anybody else at this point, literally, please give me anyone else. At one point, it looked like the guy from Street Profits was going to be the next challenger. Um,
Oh, either one of those would have
Not
been
Angelo,
interesting.
the other guy. I can't remember.
Montez,
Montez Ford. There we
Montez
go.
Ford. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
guy.
should.
For years I have been saying that guy has just big money written all over
Yeah,
him.
I totally
Like
think it's
he's going to be
him.
big when they finally let him go.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen right now. It looks like they're doubling down on the Street Profits, and they're working a program with Motor City Machine Guns and DIY, which is
Well, we'll get
kind
to
of
that.
weird. But we'll get to that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, really, Raw was good, but it wasn't like anything to write home about. It wasn't bad, but we're really leaning into War Games coming up, and we're really just barreling full bore towards that. Nothing that was on the show had anything to do with anything other than War Games, and so like there are other matches going on at Survivor Series, but really this is obviously the main focus. Is we're going to have a women's and a men's War Game match, and that was made abundantly clear on Monday because we knew we were going to have some kind of 5-on-5 scrap with the Bloodlines, and that it was going to be probably a War Games match, but there was no indication until Monday that we were going to get a women's version of said match.
Hmm.
Um,
And then
until
it
Rhea
just
Ripley
happened.
screamed it in the mic and headbutted Liv Morgan. I mean, it was cool. That part was cool. Um, so yeah, I mean, it wasn't nothing to write
Well,
home
Rhea
about.
Ripley is impossibly cool.
She is
Like
impossibly cool, but
she's
also
impossibly cool.
that you could see like how black her eye was with that orbital bone injury, like through the
Yeah.
mask and
Is
everything.
that's still like kind of newish, right?
Yeah, I think I don't know when it happened exactly, but they did it happened at a point in the week where they had to like bring her and Liv and Raquel on NXT and then have Liv and Raquel beat her up with baseball bats on NXT to kind of sell the wound and write her
Oh,
off
was it in the
TV.
parking lot?
Yeah, yeah.
That
So they
NXT
were
parking lot, man, most dangerous place in wrestling.
sure is, isn't it?
Yeah,
But so they
historically speaking, good lord.
so they did it in the NXT parking lot, and we're supposed to have written her off TV, and that's kind of what everybody expected. And then she showed up on Monday. And that was a total surprise to me. I didn't know it was going to happen. So good on WWE for surprising me. They've been doing that a lot lately, and I'm kind of okay with that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, as far as Raw goes, it was mostly just Survivor Series build, the inklings and the beginnings, except for that War Games promo, which we know we've got, and the rest of it will. The rest of the card kind of fleshes it out. The rest of the card kind of fleshes itself out on Friday. So we're not really going to be left in the dark as to what we're building towards for the next 4 weeks. So I really
Yeah,
enjoyed
I
that.
mean, they only have 5 match pay-per-views now anyway, so
Yeah.
it's not like they have to build like an entire card like they used to.
Yeah. And I mean, we've already got that's 5 matches, and we've already got, I think, 4 that I can. Well, no. Oh, okay. So I was going to say it would be the women's U.S. title match, but that is actually happening on Saturday night's main event. So,
Oh, okay.
so they're saving the women's thing for Saturday night's main event for the U.S. title.
Well, they've got
So,
to do it for something, I
so as
suppose.
far as I can see, we have a men's U.S. title match, another match that I'll talk about later, and the two War Games matches so far.
Okay.
That's where we're at, and we're not going to have any women's title matches at all because all four, like both of the women's champions and the tag team champions, are in the War Games match.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense though. Like
Yeah,
you only have so many champions, and you want to put your biggest stars in there, I guess.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So that was Raw for the week. It was good. It was good. I'm not like fawning over it, but it wasn't bad. So, um, I guess that
Hmm.
brings us right over to it's not our hopes. That's the
Shine me up, baby.
it's the shine time. Yeah, time for the shine. All right,
Yeah.
let's tag it in.
Okay, so Dynamite 11/20/2024. Lots of good actually. Like I had you know, ever since we left Blue Sky or left Twitter for Blue Sky, you can see a tremendous difference because there was so much positivity, and I will say that there was a lot of construction. I saw, at least on my timeline, a lot of constructive criticism for the stuff that didn't really work. But on Twitter, it was just constant negativity about this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's night and day. Like it's just I'm glad we're over on Blue Sky where we can just enjoy the things that we like and talk about them in good faith. That being
Yeah.
said, let's talk about some good faith. Some good faith. That 8-man tag match that opened the show with Ricochet, Powerhouse Hobbs, Will Ospreay, and Mark Davis versus the entirety of the Don Callis family was amazing. It was pandemonium. It was kind of great. Baby faces take the early advantage, but Archer eventually wedges Hobbs' rehabbed knee in between the steps and the post, and I think he kicked it. I can't remember if he kicked it or he threw somebody
No,
into
he
it or something.
threw somebody was whipping somebody else and they whipped him right into it. I think
Oh
it was
yeah,
Osprey
Cage
or
whipped somebody
Cage.
into him,
Yeah.
and then he like hip tossed him into it or something, right?
Yeah, he like
Yeah, that's what it
they were
was.
whipping somebody and he just kind of like led him right into the steel stairs with Hobbs
Yeah,
trapped behind him. Yeah, I was like, "Oh god."
and Hobbs sold it really well. I mean, and when you know when a big bruiser like that is selling something that well,
Hmm.
that like, dude, there's something special with Hobbs. They got to take advantage of him soon.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, maybe give him a little bit of momentum. He's just coming off an injury, but he doesn't look like he has any ring rust, and he sold the heck out of this. So,
Hmm.
like, I was really impressed because there's not really that many opportunities when you're pushed as the big monster strong guy to really sell that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So it's good to know that he can when the occasion calls for it. I mean, and again, what, you're not going to sell Lance Archer as a big, strong, tough guy, right? But anyway, so the doctors and the officials get Hobbs to hobble out of there, to Hobbsle out of there, and so it makes it 4-on-3. Ricochet takes over at this point and gets just the snot kicked out of him for like 3 minutes, 3-4 minutes straight, trying to make the hot tag. At one point, he takes a choke slam from Archer inside the ring to everybody on the outside of the ring, because of course. Um, Osprey eventually tags in, and he and Fletcher had like this really cool, intense moment. It was really necessary to sell the personal nature of their upcoming match, but even he succumbed to the numbers game. Um, there was a really cool spot with an assisted Blue Thunder bomb via Takeshita for a really close 2 count. And that's when Hobbs came back in. That was his cue to come back in. And he was really selling the leg, but still beating everybody up because, I mean, look at him. How
Yeah.
could he not? Uh, uh, he tagged in Davis, and Davis hit this absolutely mind-boggling gut wrench pile driver on Takeshita. It looked so disgusting, and I loved it. Fantastic. Um, but the pinfall was broken up by Fletcher, who then slapped him, only to get taken down to the mat for some ground and pound. The finish finally came when Ospreay accidentally hit Davis with a hidden blade when Fletcher pulled him in the path of it, and then Takeshi had the power drive knee on Davis while everybody else was on the outside. Uh, this was exactly what I wanted from this, and the heels winning was the right call. Absolutely. And I mean that's kind of why Davis is there. Like, not that Davis is untalented or anything, because he's absolutely not, but he's, of these 8 guys, he is far and away the less established of them. So him taking the pin was kind of academic. But I mean, wrestling doesn't have to surprise you if what they give you is great. Like, more good. Darby Allin versus Claudio Castagnoli. My goodness, like,
Wasn't this great? Like
this was
I don't want to interrupt you,
fantastic.
but God, this was freaking awesome, wasn't it?
This was like the Brody King match, a little less hardcore, but it was along the same lines. And Darby is so good at this. We'll talk about this as its own calling in the ring segment down the line here. But like,
Mm-hmm.
Darby is one of the best at taking an absolute butt whooping,
Yeah.
and like
I
he
will
garners
100%.
such sympathy. Like, I don't think there's anybody currently who does it better.
I will 100% believe even that Claudio hits harder than Brody King. So, like,
Yeah,
I
I
would
mean,
believe that. So, I mean, I know Brody King's a monster of a man, and he
but
is.
he has a good reputation for being very. Both of them do, actually.
Oh yeah, they're very safe
Very safe.
workers. But I would always like if somebody was like, if they were in wrestling canon said Claudio hits harder than Brody, he's a meaner guy. I wouldn't balk. I would believe that 100%.
Yeah, I would believe that too, actually. Like the Darby, geez, like this is one of my favorite. Like, anytime I have a Darby match, my favorite of Darby's matches are those where he gets to get thrown around a bunch and then do his comeback. His comeback is so good, and you feel such sympathy for him. And this was another one, but they subverted it in the end. Like, Claudio was doing crazy Claudio things. Like, there was
Yeah.
a top rope gut wrench superplex. There was catching Darby doing a coffin drop to the outside straight up. Like, he didn't even hit Darby's feet didn't even hit the ground. He was just caught straight up, and then he just tossed him aside. Uh, During the break, the commercial break in picture, there was Claudio lifting Darby into a stalling vertical suplex position on the floor, walking up the steel steps with him, and then going into the ring to suplex him. Like,
Oh.
what? There was him giving a giant swing to him into the steel steps, and then, of all the things, he goes on the outside, he does a gorilla press on the table, and
Oh.
then throws him onto the ring announcer's table, which doesn't break. They must have imported it from Japan. And like, he's just dead. Darby is just dead. You think it's over, and then he crawls back, just barely making it to the 9 count, and then one running lariat later, and it's over. It was chef's kiss. Perfect. I loved, like, I know a minute ago I said it doesn't have to surprise you. This surprised me, but it still made sense,
Mm-hmm.
because like, if Darby is eventually going to be the guy to dethrone Moxley, and all signs point to that being the end game here for this Death Riders story. Um, you need to draw it out and make Darby go through some more stuff, and you need to make the other Death Riders look like they can stand in the way as Moxley's obstacles. Instead, they are obstacles to overcome, as opposed to, okay, here's this other guy that we obviously know is going to get beat because he's not Moxley. These
Mm-hmm.
other guys need to appear threatening, and they've done, ever since they've hired him, they've done a very good job of protecting Claudio,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where he has like a couple. I think he may have more draws, like time limit draws, than anybody in AEW, simply because they don't want to beat him.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's
like
hard.
the
I mean,
TK obviously loves and respects Claudio and values what he brings to the table, which I think is awesome, because I think he's
yeah.
finally kind of getting his due and having a spot on the card that he deserves. Like, he's always been an immensely, incredible utility player. He's probably among the best utility players in wrestling history. He can do almost anything.
Yeah.
Certainly in the ring, he can play any role.
Mhm.
His mic work, but he's a polyglot. English wasn't his first language,
No, I'm about to
so
say, yeah, he's
like,
Swiss, so I don't expect him to have a great promo anyway,
I
even though he
mean,
does have a pretty good promo when he gets down to it,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. When he gets some inspiration, yeah, absolutely, he can absolutely deliver a believable promo. But
Hmm.
the majority of his selling point is that he's a freak athlete who can do things that nobody his shot size and shape should have any reason to be able to do. Like there's a reason they called him a cyborg. There's a reason they called him a Superman. Is because he is.
Yeah.
He's inhuman. He's superhuman. He's one of the most amazing professional wrestling performers I have ever seen in my life. And this spot, like if he's not going to be your world champ, and I can understand that, this roster runs real deep with talent. If he's not going to be that, he might as well be like the dragon.
Yeah.
He's like the guy. He's not the big bad evil guy, but he's the right hand guy. Like
Hmm.
that perfectly suits him, and he's well protected to the point that a singles win against him really means something. So because it doesn't
Yeah.
happen often. Like usually, I think if I would have to look this up, but like this in just my inclination is to think that probably most of his losses come in tags and trios, probably tags.
Yeah,
Like,
probably tag.
and he is not generally taking the pin. Like, I mean, our friend over at uh at AEW rankings.bsky.social, like Claudio isn't even really listed in the top 15, which is mind boggling to me.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show how many tag matches he's had this year.
Right.
Like he's listed. Where is he listed? Oh, you know why he's not listed is
He's a trios champ.
because they separate the champions. But yeah, he's sitting at 10-6-1. I guarantee you that at least 5 of the 6 of those losses is a tag match.
Yeah, either tag or trios.
I
It's one of
think
those for sure.
maybe if he's lost more than once in a singles match this year, it would surprise me.
Yeah.
But yeah, just looking at our friends, if you're on Blue Sky, follow AEW rankings.bsky.social. Uh, they take up the job that AEW pretended that they wanted to do, and keeps up with their own rankings based. I mean that takes some religious, you know, television watching and compiling and
Yeah.
math that I know I wouldn't want to do.
You know,
So
I will give that man a little bit of an ego rub right now. AEW should
absolutely,
100% be paying him for what he does because he's
for
the only
sure.
one doing it. And I know that shit takes time. He has to watch every minute of their programming.
That's
And
so many.
decide,
That roster
God.
so big.
Yeah,
Like,
and keep up with everybody on that roster. Like on top, like I got to get like super props to AEW rankings just because he does a job that literally nobody else seems like they want to do, and I'm glad he's
yeah,
doing it. Honestly, it
I
helps.
think his name is Mike. When he switched to Blue Sky, he switched his. He only does that on Blue Sky. I think he still has a Twitter handle, but he
Yeah,
doesn't like. I think his name is Mike. So
right.
I hope I'm getting that right, but yes, shout out to Mike at AEW Rankings at bsky.social. If you're interested in following the rankings, I'm not sure what the method is to how he compiles it, how he justifies everything, how he ranks. But I mean, he does a really good job, and he's helped us out inadvertently, kind of. We haven't like approached him for consultation or anything, but I know that we have used his rankings several times in our talking about AEW for this show. So big shout out to him.
Oh yeah.
Um, Another thing, the little things, moving stories along, like the insertion of Kyle O'Reilly into that Adam Cole MJF thing, I thought was interesting. Like, you knew they were setting something up because he would be watching the matches and everything. I didn't really expect him to get like involved, but he's like, basically, he got in the ring with Adam Cole and he's like, hey, you're just not. He said basically he's just not evil enough to and smart enough to sink himself to the lows of MJF, which I think is weird considering all the devil stuff. But it puts
Yeah.
another interesting, nuanced piece into that puzzle, which I do like. MJF's promo later on, uh, basically, he dredged up Roddy's upbringing. Like, uh, I love Roddy, but I understand his mainstream appeal is not to the level of my appeal, or not to the level to which he appeals to me, rather. Um, so yeah, trying to put any kind of heat on this when everybody was kind of bummed. I think that Cole didn't make it that far yet.
Yeah.
To you need to add some starch to this somehow, and MJF is really good at adding heat to things. So
Yeah.
I thought that was good, reminding everybody of his terrible upbringing, which actually, in its own right, reminds you that, oh yeah, Roddy is kind of sympathetic because he really, that last name really suits him because growing up in that environment, yikes.
Yeah.
Um, Jamie Hayter wanted to know what Julia Hart's problem is because her hype videos keep interrupting her interviews, and then it does it again. I kind of like how on the nose it was.
Yeah. See, last week I
Personally,
thought that was just a production error. And now this week I'm like, oh, they're building a story with production errors. Awesome.
yeah, that I mean, I'm okay with it. I
I'm not
love
mad at it.
Jamie Hayter. I think that they want to keep her busy until Tony Storm probably wins that title back again, so they can pass
Mhm.
the title to Hayter from Tony because of the history they already have. So keeping her in a feud with Julia, the returning Julia Hart, oh, that's going to be good because I don't know if you remember, but Julia Hart was real hot before she got injured. Like she was on fire. She was over,
Easily, easily the most
real
star of
over.
2023. Like she was
Yeah.
super
Oh man.
over, improved in 2023, leaps and bounds. I
Yeah.
can't wait for Julia Hart to come back. We stand
Me too.
Julia Hart
Oh,
in my house. Me and Katie both love her. She's
hell
awesome.
yeah. Big fan. Big fan. And the coup de grace of the segments that moved things forward. It wasn't for the pay per view. It was for this week's Dynamite. But the Jericho Ishii contract signing.
Oh, dude, he walking him
It
down was the
was so
best shit.
funny.
It was so
It
funny.
was so funny. I mean, first of all, you knew something was weird because it was a contract signing that wasn't in the ring. It started in the back, which never
Yeah,
happens, which I appreciated right away because at least it was something different. But Jericho is all like, "Oh, even though of course he knew about this contract signing ahead of time and would have had a week to have his lawyers look at it. He's like, my lawyers haven't looked at it. I'm not signing anything until they do. So he like walks out and like Ishii just like it follows. He just like slowly follows
yeah.
him, like
He's just
just
stalking
being
him through the arena.
intimidating. Yeah. He's like he's not even running. He's just like
No,
walking and but Jericho's face just sells the whole thing because he's so nervous and
yeah.
paranoid. he like he, he'll leave obstacles in his way, and of course, Ishii just bats them aside. Oh, here, Ishii wants to talk to some rando. Ishii just shoves him.
Just
He
walking
goes all
behind
the
him
way out.
slowly instead like Tomohiro Voorhees.
Yeah, yeah. And he comes all the way down through the crowd into the ring, and he's like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I don't need my lawyers, but gosh darn it, I do need a pen." And Ishii just grabs
Pulls
one
the pin
out
out.
of his trunks. Oh
It
my god!
was
I
so
mean,
good. It
the
was so good.
it was predictable when the rest of the learning tree and conglomeration had the big fight afterwards. But man, leading up to that point was it was the most entertaining Jericho has been in ages. Like, and this is coming from somebody who, while tired of him, still admits that every now and then it's like, he got me again. Like,
Yeah.
he does have those moments, but this far and away was the most entertaining thing he's done in just I can't remember how long. Kudos for whoever thought of that segment.
Yeah.
Um, as far as constructive criticism is concerned, honestly, the Hurt Syndicate stuff didn't really hit with me. Um, just the way I think it was more to do with like how it was shot initially in the first segment. The first segment had them coming in and Renee was going to interview them, but Swerve attacks them, and it's not initially evident that he has a chain wrapped around his hands. So him just hitting Lashley with one punch and knocking him down. Without that context, it makes him look kind of like a goober.
Yeah.
Uh, but and so he runs away and everything. And later they find, in a separate segment, they're looking for Swerve, and they find somebody who looks like him because he's wearing his coat from behind in a stairwell randomly. And they're like, "Oh, you're not Swerve. Oh, we're gonna beat you up anyway." So they do. And then finally, they're Lashley has a handicap match as his debut. He beats the crap out of the two dudes. One of them being ROH legend Cheeseburger. Love me some Cheeseburger. Oh, so glad that he got paid this week. I don't know why they haven't adopted him in Tony's ROH, because that dude's a legend. If you don't know the legend of Cheeseburger, you need to do some YouTube research right now. Cheeseburger's the man. But yeah, what I did like was that they were still looking for Swerves. His music hits, but they don't know where he is, and so the rest of the Hurt Business is looking in all directions. But Swerve comes from out under the ring to attack Lashley, still with the chain and everything. But so they kind of stuck the landing on that bit. They had Swerve hiding under the ring while his music was playing after Lashley beat all the Cheeseburger and his friends, whose name I don't remember.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that poor guy's name either because I was like Cheeseburger.
Yeah, I was too happy that Cheeseburger was there. Love me some
Yeah.
Cheeseburger, as I already said. But um, yeah, like Swerve coming up from under the ring, I thought was great. So they did stick the landing, except it made Lashley look a little bit like a doofus. He's this big powerhouse and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if you really want to be making him look like that. I mean, it definitely course corrected at Full Gear,
Oh,
but and probably overly so. But in the moment, I was like, I don't know. I wasn't really sold. I was like, you're building up the Hurt Center to get to look, like basically the second most dangerous group in the company behind Death Riders, and you're making them look like goobers. Like, I mean, Swerve is one guy. How do you beat a bunch of guys by separating them and outsmarting them and stuff like that? I get that, but it's like, ugh, I don't. This would have been fine if there had been another week, another segment where they kind of got back and just the numbers played the numbers. But I don't know. To me, it was like, I don't know about this. Just me though. The main event, Orange Cassidy versus Wheeler Yuta was, I mean, it was good. It was enjoyable, but it wasn't next level. What I really liked after the match though was the angle that happened. Cassidy picks up the win with the roll up after grapebining Yuta's legs. After Yuta had tried to attack him with a chair in full view of the referee, like he didn't hit, so it didn't cause a DQ. But I'm like, what are you thinking, Yuta? But after that, the rest of the Death Riders attack. The conglomeration were told off by Cassidy earlier in the night. He's like, more of this, I need to do this alone kind of stuff. So he was alone for this. They duct tape his arms to his sides after they had placed his hands in his pockets, which I thought was a cool visual that had some meaning to it. And they played kind of like middle school bully keep away with him. They just kind of bounced them around between all five of them. Moxley slapped him a few times. Cassidy responded with his, lazy kicks, and that really, really ticked off Moxley, who just punched him right in the mouth. And then they beat him down a little bit, and then they leave through the crowd. That's when the conglomeration comes out and they cut him free. But with whatever strength he still had left, Cassidy looked up out at Mox, who was out in, halfway to the locker room by now, but still out in the arena. He put on his shades. He put his hands in his pockets of his own accord, and defiant to the end. And Mox was just seething. It was. I thought this was really well executed. Like, it didn't really kind of click until the very end when you see that look on Mox's face that it is getting to him, that his power and his mind games aren't affecting Orange Cassidy, who has this just iron will. To me, that was great. The match itself, it was okay. I mean, there were other matches on the show that were not the main event that were even better, but none of them had this kind of go home angle to them. So, I mean, this was definitely the right spot for it. Uh,
Yeah.
so I thought the angle was great. Um, but yeah, that was Dynamite. In the spirit of keeping this going, I won't dwell on it too much. Let's go to the Morton, baby.
All right. The Morton for this week was our SmackDown. This is probably going to be the shortest SmackDown review I've ever done because there wasn't a whole lot to SmackDown this week. But there was some like heavy story beats in it. So like we talked about earlier, I wasn't sure if it happened on Raw, so I'll cover a little bit more here because it may have actually happened on SmackDown. But we had LA Knight and Santos Escobar. Their U.S. Championship match has been announced. I can't remember if they announced it for like a future SmackDown or for the actual pay per view, but here we go for round 8. Um,
Yeah.
LA Knight literally won all 3 of the initial matches and the 4 since then. So it's like, what are we doing? Um,
Yeah.
I if I have one really, really, really bad thing that I did not like about WWE this week, and if it's just one thing between 2 shows, okay, but it's this right here. It's please give LA Knight a new challenger. I am not mad that Santos Escobar is getting to challenge for a title. I'm mad that he's challenging for the same title over and over again and losing. If he had won it, if this was a back and forth exchange, if he felt like if they had built him to and he felt like a legitimate challenger, this would not be an issue. But they have basically let LA Knight clown on him and beat him 7 times in a row now.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but that's a way you bury somebody. That's golden shovel burial. That's not
It's what they
building.
used to do all the time with Dolph Ziggler anytime he was, chasing that mid card title.
Yeah. So basically, that's what's
Or
happening
Kofi
there.
Kingston for a while. I was like, oh, we're just gonna have him beat you down and beat you down
Right. Right.
because we can't be bothered to find a different challenger and a story to go along with it.
Right. So we had a women's triple threat match, which I gotta give it to WWE for these like tournament qualifier matches or these actual tournament matches. They're doing triple threats and stuff. It's really odd to me, but I like new stuff, and it's only odd to me because it's new. Like in the future, I'll probably be like, why are there only 2 people fighting for this tournament qualifier? You know,
This will become the standard. Yeah.
yeah, I really like it. I kind of hope the way they do like trios and quadruple tag matches becomes the standard too with the one man legal all the time. But they had a 3-way with for women. It was Bianca, Chelsea Green, and another young lady who's either from Australia or New Zealand, whose name I cannot remember right now. I haven't seen her on TV a lot. That's why I can't remember her name, but I
Hmm.
can place her
Trying
face.
to trying to think of who it might
She's
be.
relatively new. I mean, at least to me, she's new.
Well, they let go of Indy Hartwell, so it's
Yeah, it's
not
not
her.
indie. It's no, she's like a meaner. She's like a heel, but I can't remember what her name is. Either way, it was one of those ones where it was like with the BFAB situation last week, where it was like we know this person's here to eat the pin,
Yeah.
and I felt bad because I don't really like it being obvious that somebody's going to eat the pin in this match. But it was Bianca Belair, Chelsea Green, and this girl, and so of course she was going to eat the pin. However, where they did surprise me was that um, at one point during the match they cut to the back and Jade Cargill has been thrown on top of a car or laid out on top of a car. Either way, what we're seeing is the aftermath. And the entire hood of the car is dented and the glass is broken and Jade is laid out on it. Insinuating that someone has beat the shit out of Jade Cargill, which is crazy to me because she's like one of the most powerful people in the women's division. It had to have been somebody like Nia, or at least that's where my mind goes. Of course, we don't get the answer
It's
to who
so
did.
we really do live in a blessed age where there are big wrestling companies willing to spend much, much, much money on ruining rental cars for the sake of furthering angles.
My lord, these guys are going to get us back to where we can't get rental cars anymore, man. For
Yeah.
the longest time, especially like the 80s or like after the 80s, like from like the early 90s or like the mid 90s to like the mid
Yeah.
to the mid aughts, we could not get a rental car.
Yeah.
Because if you put wrestling down as your occupation, you were not getting a rental car that day. Like that was just
Yeah.
what it was. Um, but
And that will come up later.
yeah.
This car
Oh
thing.
God, yeah, it will.
Yeah. We'll get
So
there.
so Bianca left the match because Jade's beat up back there. So Bianca took off running to go see what's going on with her partner, and Chelsea Green took advantage of that, and she got the pin. So Chelsea Green and Bailey are now the two competitors for the Women's U.S. Championship. I don't know if there's going to be more, if it's going to be like a 4-way or a 3-way, but we're having trios match. We're having like triple threats to determine it. So maybe they're going to do another triple threat, and we're going to get a third. I think they put up the brackets, but I honestly didn't. I can't remember them because it was briefly. I don't have a eidetic memory, so I can't just remember this tournament bracket. Uh,
Right.
but it looked like there might have been maybe there's 2 more matches for 2 more competitors, so we're going to get like maybe we'll get a 1-on-1 after 2 semifinals. But right now it's Bailey and Chelsea. Um, then we go back to the bloodline, and so new bloodline comes out. Solo Sikoa demands that Roman Reigns and his crew come out and um, accept his terms of surrender. And
Wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
arrogant.
Yeah, it was real arrogant. Yeah, Solo's arrogant, and like they're building this character's great. He's meant to be arrogant, but not as good as Roman Reigns, and he knows it.
He's
And
got imposter syndrome.
yeah, he's got imposter
But he's
syndrome real
fighting
bad, and
against him.
it's working, man. It's working. They're building it right. Solo plays good imposter syndrome, man. Like he plays insecure really well. Um. So anyway, they like we've got 5. Y'all have only got 4. You don't want to do war games like this. Accept our terms of surrender. Join us because Solo is still trying to get them to join up. Like he doesn't want to. He doesn't. He made it clear later. He doesn't want to beat them up. He wants them to join and
Yeah,
acknowledge him as their
his
tribal.
goal is to be the tribal chief and have
Yeah.
everyone acknowledge him.
So
He doesn't want to destroy the family. He wants the credit of uniting the family because it's more important to him. It's more valuable to unite than to divide. It always is. It always is. So of course that's where the power lies. It
right.
makes perfect sense.
So then we go to the OG bloodline, and it's Sammy and the Usos and Roman. They're sitting there together, and they're talking about who the 5th guy is going to be. And Jay and Jimmy are like, man, we've called everybody. Like, we don't know who to ask. Like, everybody said no. And I'm assuming at this point in the show, we'll talk more about this as I get into it. But at this point in the show, I'm thinking it's got to be Hikuleo or somebody like that. It's got to be one of the few remaining independent Fatus because it's only like there's like 100 of these guys, but there's only like 4 or 5 of them left that aren't signed.
I think Zilla's contract with MLW ran out recently too. Didn't
I think it did. I think it did, but I'm not sure on the status of that because I don't keep up that much with MLW. But it's got to be Hikuleo or Zilla or somebody like that. That's what we're thinking. So, but they're no, we made calls, we did all this, we did that. It's not. Nobody's coming. Nobody's going to be the 5th. And then Sammy's like, well, I could ask Seth again. And Roman straight up says, no, F Seth Rollins. We're not doing that. He's like, this is the only these 4 people right here are the only 4 people that matter. We're going to go out there, and if we die, we die together. Okay, cool. So then,
right.
that's those segments happen in the middle of the show, and then we get Cody Rhodes in the ring. And Cody Rhodes is in the ring because this week he has demanded that Kevin Owens show his face at SmackDown. And he wants Kevin Owens face to face in the ring.
Yeah.
He comes out, he starts talking, he calls out Kevin Owens. He's like, I don't want to beat around the bush. Kevin Owens, get your ass out here, right now. Kevin Owens comes out in his typical sleeveless t-shirt, but it's a tuxedo t-shirt. And he says, you can't say no to the great and powerful Cody Rhodes. So I showed up here dressed to the nines, and Cody Rhodes is wearing like jeans and a sports jacket. And he's like, you couldn't even be bothered to wear your sleazy businessman suit. And look, I have a tux on. It was
Kevin Owens
funny.
is the best.
Look,
I love
Kevin
Kevin.
Owens is unhinged in the best way. I love Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is my
I
favorite person in wrestling because he has not only my hairline and my beard and my body type. Um, like I love Kevin Owens because that's basically my wrestling twin. That's the guy that I identify the most with. He is a little bit mentally ill, he's kind of
yeah,
portly, and he'll still kick
yeah.
your ass. So
He's such a nice guy too. I've
yeah,
met him in a couple of indie shows, and he's just the nicest guy and a fellow zoo enthusiast, which I appreciate.
right. But so him and Cody are going back and forth, and he's like, Cody's like, well, I demanded you come here and be in this ring, and Kevin's like, no, we're not going to do that. And that's basically the gist of this whole thing is that Kevin is going to basically tell Cody Rhodes, like he told Cody, well, okay, I say basically just, but it went way farther than this. They dropped bombs on one another, like real bombs on one another. It was crazy how what I said on Blue Sky in my post about this segment that this is generational shit. This is generational shit.
I'll have to go check that out.
Cody
I
Rhodes
haven't seen anything about it
Cody
yet.
Rhodes told Kevin Owens the whole spiel about how you're the only one holding yourself back, Kevin, and you're a victim, and you're always playing a victim, and all this other. And Kevin Owens looked like he was legitimately going to break out in tears while Cody Rhodes was talking. His eyes were definitely glossed over in that fashion, like he looked like he was about to cry.
Mm.
Like, ooh, maybe you're hitting a little too close to home there, homie. But then Kevin Owens came back and said, this is all your fault because I spent 4 years fighting the bloodline and Roman Reigns tried to end my career no less than 3 times. And then he comes out and he's like, I need a tag partner and nobody will tag with him and you do it. So fuck you, Cody. I hate you. And
Yeah,
it's really not that often that somebody tells somebody in wrestling, I hate you. It
yeah,
doesn't happen that often. And this in
no,
this particular case, because Cody was talking about how you're the only I love you, but you're the only person in your own way here, blah blah blah. And Kevin was just like, no,
you
you
love me, I
literally
hate
stabbed
you,
me in the back, and I hate you. And this is
and it's
all your
hard.
fault.
I mean, like I said, the majority of my experience lately with WWE is listening to you describe it to me. But I gotta say, as great a baby face as Cody Rhodes is, and just seeing him and be a great person he is. I told you the story about how he gave up uh his fee to fix our ring. Last week I told you that story.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like he's a great dude. It's hard for me not to side with Kevin on this one though, because of his reasoning. It's like, dude spent 4 years. I mean, I remember both of those Royal Rumble matches. Like, I did
Yeah.
see them. Like, yeah, I'm kind of on Kevin's side here.
Yeah, I think I might be too. Actually, I really like Kevin Owens anyway, so that's I might be on Kevin's side with this one. If he comes out the WWE champ at the end of this, I'll be happy actually. So, um,
It's not gonna happen. They won't give us nice things.
I know. But then, and here's where it gets wild. This is what made the week of wrestling for me. Like there was good shit going on in both companies across the board. All right, but me being just who I am, this is where it got good. All right. So new bloodline comes out. They take their place in the ring. Bronson Reed in tow. It's their 5-man War Games team.
Yes.
And we are all of the opinion that they have telegraphed this with Bronson Reed and that it's going to be Seth Rollins. But Seth said no, not once, but twice. And then Roman Reigns said, no, don't ask him again. So we're thinking it's not going to be Seth. But the OG bloodline comes out, new bloodlines in the ring. It's just the 4 guys with the OG bloodline. They get up on the apron of the ring. It looks like they're about to get in the ring and a fight's going to happen. They kind of get in the ring. They're like face to face. Everybody's there. And Solo's like, I love you all. I just want you to join up with me. We could run this place if you would just join up with me. And you know you're not going to win war games. Look at the situation. There's 5 of us. There's 4 of you. This is not working for you in any way. Just acknowledge me. And then he hands the mic to Roman, and Roman goes to talk and is immediately interrupted by, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. And I have never heard a crowd lose their fucking minds on a SmackDown so hard. He comes walking out, gets like the biggest pop. I am so happy at this point. My hair is standing on end. Paul Heyman is with us again. I love Paul Heyman.
He is, in my mind, the best talker in wrestling history, and it's not even particularly close.
No, it's not.
Not even close.
Not even close. It's
look at his body of work. It spans 3.5 to 4 decades of him being the best person with a mic in front of his mouth, even with alongside great talkers like CM Punk.
Yeah,
like, it's still Paul. It's
right,
and he's been he's the best. Some people may think that, and in my mind too, he's the best manager of all time. Like, I know people really hold Bobby Heenan in high esteem, and I understand that, and I even, to a degree, agree with it. But it's Paul Heyman.
There is a Mount Rushmore of wrestling managers that has 3 other guys on it who are not Paul Heyman, but Paul Heyman is definitely one of them.
Yeah,
and the other 3 are Jimmy Hart, the aforementioned Bobby Heenan, and Jim Cornette. I know a lot of you aren't going to like to hear that name, but as a wrestling manager,
really good at his job.
As a manager, that he's on the freaking he might not be as a podcaster or a wrestling commentator, but as a manager, he is definitely on that.
That's the thing that I'm going to take this opportunity to just quickly reestablish one thing. This is not a podcast where we discredit talented people if we don't like other aspects of their personality or their lives. We give credit where it's due. We highlight the wrong as well. You know, Jim Cornette is kind of an a-hole.
He's definitely no.
And his fans are his legions of cult. The cult of Cornette are the worst.
I listen to Cornette.
I eggs them on.
See, I objectively love his podcast, but I also know when to take it with a grain of salt, and I also don't let it make it my entire personality. Cornette fans are the MAGA of the left.
They are. They're the worst.
That's
They're
true.
The absolute
I
worst.
hate to say it. Sorry, Jim, if you're listening. I hate to say it, but that's what you created. And
he knows that. Like, that's the thing, though. What he is, there is that aspect of it, but he was also an incredible manager.
Incredible.
Also an incredible talker. A character.
One of the best.
He's also, he's right up there with Dave Meltzer in terms of living wrestling historians.
Oh yeah,
he is an excellent historian, but he is so irritating as a person and a podcaster.
I can listen to him talk about wrestling history all day, though. He knows his shit.
Absolutely,
and he has books. As soon as it goes into
as soon as it goes into the modern stuff and his opinions on that, I would turn it off. But like, if his show was only about stories or about wrestling history, man, that would be one of my favorite podcasts.
Oh yeah,
legit.
I only listen to him on YouTube because he breaks up his show the way we do ours.
Yes.
And I always like when it's like Jim Cornette on Dutch Mantel or Jim Cornette on NWA in the 80s. That's when I go and click on the video.
Exactly. That's my wheelhouse with him too.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm having a religious experience. Paul Heyman is one of the best managers of all time. I'm so glad he's back. We've been wondering about it. We got that disconnected number message last week when Roman tried to call him. I didn't know what was going to happen here. So Paul Heyman comes out and he's cutting a killer promo as he does. And we're about to roll right into another controversial figure. So here we go. He says 4-on-5 does not make sense in wise man math. That doesn't work for me, and it's not going to work for you either. So it's not going to be 4-on-5. War Games is going to be 5-on-5, and here's your 5th guy. And he points at the fucking entranceway, and CM Punk's music hits.
Yeah, I did
And
see and hear about this. Yeah.
and CM Punk comes walking down the aisle wrapping his fist up. Like he
Hmm.
has obviously been taping all the way through Gorilla, and it's just one hand. It's not, he doesn't have the other hand taped up. He's just got the one. He's wrapping the tape around the hand as he's walking down the aisle. He gets in the ring. He immediately jumps on Bronson Reed and starts laying a beating on him. And then chaos ensues, and we've got a 5-on-5, beat down going on. They cleared the ring. Now, after SmackDown went off the air, like SmackDown went off the air as Roman was walking towards the ropes to do his one thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, they all did that, but CM Punk made the go to sleep gesture. So of course he's got to be a rebel. You CM. But
Well, I
yeah, they
mean,
did that. Yeah,
he's not actually part of the
yeah.
bloodline. It
He's
wouldn't
probably
make
not going
sense
to
for him to do it
acknowledge
anyway.
Roman Reigns, but also he's a Paul Heyman guy. It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Like nobody
Yeah.
wants to. Nobody's our friend. Nobody wants to be with us. Nobody likes us. You know who else nobody likes? Nobody likes CM Punk right now. So you know what? This is a perfect fit. Nobody likes CM Punk, and
I
nobody.
mean, he's okay with Cody for
Yeah, I
now.
mean, yeah. Well, I mean, they're okay. But what I'm saying is like, let's talk. I mean, let's even talk about the general wrestling fandom. There is a general distaste for CM Punk going around right now. Not in my
You
house,
know,
but it is happening.
I
Uh,
mean, I would say that I wouldn't necessarily call it 50-50 split, but it's pretty close split down the middle
yeah,
generally.
yeah,
I mean, like you know where I stand on that, and we won't go into that because this podcast is already going to be going too long if we do. But yeah, I mean, he certainly has value whether you like him or not. He certainly brings an audience. He
yeah,
certainly brings all of the talents that everybody who now have disowned him. He still has all those talents. Like
right.
again, going back to what we just said about Cornette, this is not a show where we will discount people's actual talents. It's not going to happen. We're going to
Yeah,
call it fairly.
yeah. So is he also an asshole? Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
but is he a great wrestler and a great talker? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Am I a fan? Sure. I'm absolutely a fan of his, and I'm not going to deny it because I think people won't like me because of it. F that. Um, I like what I like, and other people can like what they like, and I'm not going to argue with them about it.
Yeah.
But that's basically where SmackDown ends. Um, CM Punk is the perfect choice. Paul Heyman coming back was a religious experience. Cody versus Kevin is generational shit. WWE SmackDown, especially, is putting out some fucking stellar work right now. Big up for all of it this week. Like I said, the only thing I really don't like that's going on right now is the continued shellacking of Santos Escobar and his golden shovel burial.
Yeah.
But all they got to do for that is switch the feud up a little bit. Now, see, they are kind of switching it up, but they've golden shovel buried Santos Escobar, and now LA Knight's being attacked by a returning Shinsuke Nakamura,
See,
who
yeah,
who
that.
is 100% playing a Japanese demon. He's got the painted face and he's wearing the black
Ooh, he's a
clothes.
yokai.
Yeah, he's a
All
yokai,
right.
and his vignettes are about LA Knight's insecurities and shit like that. He's definitely playing a Japanese demon. I'm 100% here for it. But there wasn't much to say about it because that's all we've gotten. We've got like he returned and attacked LA Knight last week. He came in after LA Knight's match this week and attacked him again. We're obviously
See,
barreling towards that program, but the person who is suffering because of that is Santos Escobar.
yeah, see, that's why I don't like it. Like, save that for next week or save that for the week after Survivor Series,
Yeah,
so that it's
something
not
like that.
obvious that like give give the audience at least some hope that you're going to see a title change. Some kind of doubt. I mean, with his next challenger already lining up, it makes it all about academic.
Yeah, it
Like
does.
that's just broadcasting way too far in advance.
Yeah, I don't see them giving Escobar the belt and then letting Shinsuke and LA Knight run no belt. Yeah, I
No,
don't think that's going to happen. So,
me neither.
because I think Shinsuke's probably going to win if he plays out this yokai character the way I think it could go. He could be the next U.S. champion. And I'll be here for it. It'd be an interesting twist character. I mean, I know we got Wyatt Six on there already, but Japanese yokai Undertaker, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about WWE this week. SmackDown was godly. It was a religious experience just because of that last part. And now we got like the biggest of big hot tags this time to talk about AEW Full Gear, baby.
Your hot tag this week is Full Gear, and wow, did a lot of stuff happen. I'm not going to talk about all of it because it's pay per view, it's huge, whatever. But I will talk about what I liked and what I didn't like. I thought the tag team title match was a good opener. I know a lot of people were kind of disappointed in it. There was some scuttlebutt online that they didn't really like. They didn't think it served Private Party all that well, and I kind of agreed with that. But to me, like they didn't like that it was mostly a backdrop to the Acclaimed continuing to break up. I honestly think that the Acclaimed, since they have such a deep history, that they kind of deserve a spotlight. Like I don't know if they deserve a spotlight for their breakup that's bigger than the World Tag Team Championship, but I do feel like it should. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Like this is one of the first times where you have a tag team that's been a unit for so long as a unit that's breaking up. So I didn't mind all the stuff with Caster and being the selfish one and trying to get it. And they did the thing. You and I were talking about this earlier. They did the thing that I feel like a lot of people don't like. It's very divisive, but I enjoy it when both tag team partners are legal, so they try and pin one another. There's like, what do you do? Like, there's one train of thought that says, well, that team got pinned, so they should lose. The other train of thought is mine is like, well, that the guy pinning the other guy is also from that team, so they should win. Like, I feel like that should trying to take that tack should be rewarded, if not exploited all that often. Like, you don't want that gimmick to get bogged down because, like, oh my god, we've seen this already. But like, I feel every once in a while you should break that out to put over the craftiness of the participants. Like I feel, yeah. And Rick Knox, even though that he's anytime Rick Knox is in there, you're usually gonna get some wonky officiating. I think by design. I think that he's like the Young Bucks is like go-to guy, and they like just like messing with him. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, if we're gonna be pulling shenanigans that require weird things from the referee, you're our guy. Like, I think they
Yeah.
just like to put him in weird positions like that, that kind of make him look like a dip. But
Yeah.
but
Um,
that being said, um, they did that spot and it was broken up. They mentioned on commentary how maybe that would just be a no contest, or why is Rick Knox counting? But I don't know. I liked it.
I'll
That's
put it
just
this
me.
way. As a referee, I actually and proof that you never stop learning in this business. Um, I don't know what that call would be as a referee. I don't know that I
Yeah,
would have reacted as well as Rick Knox did because he just went ahead and made a decision. Um,
yeah,
and 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 it worked. Thankfully, it wasn't like
yeah.
it wasn't a botch or anything like that. Like it worked the decision he made. What the rule book would say about this or how this will be determined ruling in the future is probably up to the promoter or the company itself. Um,
This is the kind of
I've
thing
been
that you
doing
could
this for like
build
10
a thing
yeah.
around.
I've
Like you
been
could
doing this
build.
well,
Or go ahead.
I've been doing this for 10 or 15 years and never had this happen. So
Yeah,
I don't really I can't say anybody is the definitive authority on this. Um,
yeah.
especially not me. So yeah, I don't know how this is supposed to go, man. And I really would like a veteran of the business, like maybe this is where Jim Cornette could be helpful. Is like, hey Jim, have you ever seen this happen before? And what is the actual rule involved? Because I bet he has the answer. Um,
And I bet he would give you like a 5 minute tirade on why he hates it first, but he would give you an answer.
oh yeah, for sure, we get an answer out of it, and that's all I want.
Yeah.
Um, so
I mean, this is the kind of thing that you could build an angle around. Like, I mean, have it happen and have the referee make a decision, and kind of in the moment, and then realize he doesn't really know what the consequences of his decision would be, and then have them make a ruling and say, okay, in AEW, this is what happens in this situation. Like, for example, if you wanted to pass it on to a cheap heel tag team and have him have him count it and have nobody interfere in it and have the referee be kind of scratching his head, but he's like, okay, I guess you guys are the champs now, and have everybody boo the hell out of it. And then the next week on Dynamite, have saying, okay, well, we're going to let the referee's decision stand, but going forward, this is the rule. Like, I could see that being pretty popular to lead
Yeah.
to, a rematch where they, the baby faces who got screwed probably get their belts back. Like, I could see that working as a storyline beat, and then you never have to bring it up again because it has been established.
Yeah.
In fact, if I was running, you know what? I mean, our very first episode of this show, we talked about how we would handle our own feds. Maybe that's something I do like right out the gate. It's like, okay, we're going to do a thing where there's this nebulous rule that nobody really knows the answers to. We're going to parse it out from the beginning so that people know what the rules are. But anyway, yeah. So at the end of the day, Caster's selfishness does him in. He blind tags himself in to Bowens as he was looking to seal the deal. But he's like, no, we got to do the thing. We got to do the arrival mic drop. And he's like, okay. After a little hesitancy, Bowens eventually goes and does it. But left just enough time for Bowens to, after hitting the arrival, get taken out of the ring. And then Caster's hung up on the top rope by, I think it was Quen, who grabbed his ankles. And then they hit the gin and juice on Caster and went. And the crowd hated Caster. They despised him.
Oh yeah.
And, I mean, this is the time. Like, I would not be surprised if they had designs on stretching this out for longer. It would not surprise me if they pivot and they do the full breakup and turn from Caster on this week's episode of Dynamite or Collision. Would not surprise me whatsoever because this audience is ready. They are pleading for it. And you know what? That kind of passion is always good, regardless of whether it was the outcome that you wanted. Anytime you get that kind of passion from your audience, that's a good sign. That means that you're connecting with them in some way. And even if it's in a bad way, that means you can course correct and really make them happy. So I kind of hope that's what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of hope they claim breakup.
Yeah, it's time.
But I don't really want either of them to end up with Lashley and MVP, and we can talk more about that later. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I feel like one of them's going to end
Yeah.
up with the Hurt Syndicate, and I'm just not really with it.
I think that they want to. My feeling and what I would do is I would have Caster turn on Bowens, and try to join the Hurt Syndicate, but then they rescind their offer and be like, "No, we saw how you acted in that 4-way. We don't. No, this is not about being selfish. This is about working together to dominate and hurting people. That was clearly not your aim. We rescind the offer," and then they kick the crap out of him. And then he can go back and try to get back with Bowens, but it's too late. He's already crossed that bridge, so he gets really pissy and attacks Bowens, and then they have their feud. That's what I would do. Adding somebody to the Hurt Syndicate, honestly, my first candidate would be Lio Rush. He already has a history with Lashley. He's getting an edge to his character now. Like, his match with Swerve last week was great. I would go with Rush. All right. Next up, oh my gosh, the TBS Championship match. Oh my gosh, this was incredible. Mercedes Moné, since signing with AEW, has had a lot of hits and misses. I think a lot of people probably hold up that Britt Baker match at All In as like
Huge miss.
That's not. It was a huge miss, but I think people. it's kind of a like a what have you done for me lately situation. They look at that, they see that as their last major defense, really, and they're like, oh, it paints they paint that entire title reign with that brush when that's not really true. Like she had a great match with Willow to win the thing. She had a really good match with Sheeta. She had a really good, if short, match with Emi Sakura. But like things still weren't clicking. And this is finally where we got the Mercedes Monet that we were hoping that we would eventually get. This was an absolute banger. I just looked it up a few hours ago. Just randomly came across my Blue Sky feed that this was actually the longest women's match in AEW history at just over 19 minutes, which is kind of problematic. But at the same time, we've had a lot of great women's matches in there too. Not every match has to be a marathon, but like this was amazing. These two have remarkable chemistry. I would love to see them run this one back. Monet actually controlled most of the match using mostly like cunning and hit and run tactics. There was a point where it looked like she was trying to, take a count out victory. There were points where she was just hitting meteors and double knees over and over again. Uh, but Statlander kept coming back every time she made a comeback. There were some great near falls and reversals. One that stands out to me was uh, after a while, after several meteors, Stat got wise to it and caught Monet coming off the top rope, just caught her in midair in meteor position and buckle bombed her out of it. Like freaking crazy. There was another counter where Statlander was power bombing or looking to power bomb Monet, but she floated over and like did almost like a you know she rolled over her, and as she was coming down, she grabbed Statlander's neck like a reverse bulldog and hit a neck breaker right onto her knee. It was one of those things you blink and you're like, wait, what just happened? And then they played it on replay. It's like, holy cow, that wasn't a botch. That was on purpose. That looked at closer inspection, like that looked great actually. Like everything just worked. She sold. Statlander sold the offense to the point where it was it was still believable that she was still getting kind of whittled down and whittled down and whittled down. Monet really, really turned up the emotion in this match. Was really just beside herself as the heel who like I'm doing everything I can. And I think the most surprising thing wasn't the fact that Camille stayed in the back. It was the fact that Monet won pretty clean. Like she had been working on the knee for the better part of like the last quarter of the match, and so when Chris picked her up to hit her with the Saturday Night's Fever, Monet was frantically, hitting at the knee and even bit it at one point so that she would let her go, and then hit her with a Casadora that sent her throat first into the middle rope and then rolled her up for the clean win. Like I don't think Stat lost anything by losing here. This was a star-making performance for both of these women, and I really, really want to see them run this back with Stat eventually winning. Like it just made me more invested in seeing this match again with the other results because I think that would be a real big money match for them, which is considering the build to this match, which I found kind of lacking. Like sometimes it's just a matter of like you know, leaning into the strengths. Like Mercedes isn't like a super great actor. She's not. She's not like a great promo, even really. Like she has a lot of personality, and but that's mostly in her in ring work. Like her in ring work is just when she's on, she is you know incomparable. But like you have to get there, and she had the right dance partner. She had the right set of circumstances. Like they just let her go. They trusted her to have a banger match, which she sorely needed, and both of these ladies delivered. Like I was over the moon with this.
I
Uh,
agree with you all the way up until the finish. Uh,
yeah, I mean,
I
it
honestly
definitely came
thought
out of
that.
nowhere.
Well, I thought the finish sequence was a botch fest. I hate saying that, but whatever that was supposed to be is not what it was. I don't know how it was supposed to go. I mean, even picking it apart, I can't tell you what the move was supposed to be to get from point A to point B in that situation, but I don't think it was right. Especially the way it was presented, that definitely was botched. Um, but until that point, fantastic match. I don't agree with the booking, but I am not going to agree with Mercedes Monet being TBS champion until they take that belt from her, put her at the back of the line, make her wrestle everybody to get back to it, like they do to everyone else.
Yeah.
I, I
That's the thing that really separates AEW and WWE in terms of their champions. Like when you lose, it's more like MMA than traditional wrestling, where like yeah, you don't generally get an immediate rematch. They
no,
make you work for it.
yeah, and I think that like if they had done that in the first place, I would be much higher on Mercedes' overall title run. But the fact that she came in and was basically handed the title immediately doesn't sit right with me because of the depth of talent they have that now has to play second fiddle to her that was working for 4 years before she showed up.
Yeah,
I don't
I mean
like
I
that
can
part.
see that.
I don't,
I you and I can agree to disagree on this.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not staunchly in the other direction, but I lean more in that other direction.
I mean, now,
Um,
was this match a banger? Hell yeah. Do I want him to run
oh
it
yeah,
back? For sure. I just don't agree with the booking on this one. I don't agree with the way Mercedes came into the company that led to this situation that we're in now. I don't like that part. And easiest way to fix that, because I don't like to gripe about something without providing a possible solution to it, is take the title off her, put it on stat, and send Mercedes to the back of the line. Have her wrestle everybody like everybody else, and then we'll, when she gets back here, we'll talk about it. But I
yeah. I
don't
mean,
really.
I would think that a match like this, though, at least raises her stock a little bit,
Oh, no,
right?
no, no! I didn't say. I mean, like I said, I'm not. I thought the match was fantastic. Her abundant level of what the fuck can I do to put her down? It was
Yeah.
obvious. Like
Oh my
she was
gosh, it was
screaming into the
so good.
ether because
You
she
know what it
was just
reminded
like,
me of?
I
It
can't beat
remind
her.
it reminded me of her Iron match with Bailey in NXT,
Yeah, a little
where it was
bit.
like it was just that desperation there. Like
Yeah,
it gave me that feeling again. It was
that
great.
desperation. What's it going to take to beat her? But then when they went into the process, like she's got her in the position for a Saturday Night Fever. She gets she starts hitting her leg with these very weak looking punches and then bites her, and then
I
somehow
like
that
the biting, honestly.
somehow
I
that
thought that was
makes
funny.
Statlander, clothesline herself on the middle rope, which then leads to a roll up that's not really a roll up. Was more like Stat throwing her own legs over the back of her head so that they could just get this over with. All the way up until that point, I was like, this match is great. And it may have, in my mind, I'm not going to give a star number to this because I don't do that. But in my mind, that finishing sequence probably docked them a half a star. But that
But
doesn't but that doesn't
counter
mean it wasn't a 4 star match or a three and a
counterpoint
half or a 4.5. I mean,
counterpoint. Doesn't the botch finish actually make you want to see them run it back again even more though?
no, no.
To give it a proper
I
end?
don't I don't have that in me in my head that we messed it up the first time, so let's do it again. Because I'm very much not a let's give them a chance to screw it up again person. However, because of how good the match was before that point, yes, I want to see them run it back. I thought it was a good, like I said, I'm not here to say these women are terrible wrestlers or this is
Oh. Oh, I'm not
this was a
accusing you of
crap match.
that.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not here for any of that. They're both great. This was a great match that proved that Mercedes can go the way they pay her to go, and it proved that Stat is just continuing on her complete and total, cycle of I'm a badass and I'm great in the
Yeah.
ring, and that's just what it is. So she is. I mean, but this was I thought the match was good up until that point. I didn't agree with the booking decision, and I don't think it. I'm not mad at it because the heel won. I'm mad at it because I would like Mercedes to have earned it like everybody else did. Everybody that's got a championship in that company went through months of something, or even years in some cases, to get to the point where they're at. Let's take a look at Mariah May. That Tony Storm story ran for like 6 months, where all she could do was, clap for the champ without being a challenger at all. And then suddenly we get, the flip turn, and now she's champ. If they had done the same type of thing with Mercedes, I don't think I'd be upset about her being champion at all. But I'm very much a person who is like, don't hire people from outside the company when you can promote from within. And
So
they definitely have a talent level to promote from within without having hired her in the first place. They have hired her. That's already done and said. I can't say anything else about it. So maybe make her operate like the rest of them do.
okay. What do you say about the Motor City Machine Guns who immediately got the tag belts?
They've been in the business 20 years longer than she has, and they're legendary tag team.
Yeah,
So it's a
but
little
come
bit of a
on.
different
Like she's
situation.
been on the WWE. She had a WrestleMania like huge moment, main event of night one of that. Like she's had she's definitely paid her dues elsewhere in the business on a much greater stage than even the Machine Guns, really. Most of their work was in Japan and in TNA. So what's really the difference? And she's in a Star Wars show. Like I just
Okay,
I
okay. Look,
feel
look. I'm not trying to be the negative guy, but she's the worst part of a very good Star Wars show. So, um,
yeah.
but my point in this is okay. Okay, here's the difference. I know the difference. Okay, WWE's
Right.
tag team division kind of sucks. AEW's women's division decidedly does not suck.
True. That is true.
Okay, the
They may
WWE
not
tag team
always know
division
what to do with
needed,
their division,
yeah, the
but
tag team division needed this shakeup. The women's division had a long line of people who were next in line before they just were like, oh, hey, we're going to make her the highest paid woman in wrestling. And she's getting the women's mid card title without fighting for it, basically. Um, I didn't like that part. I mean, I can palate it a lot better than her being the world champion off the bat. I would have been heated if they had done that.
yeah. Although
But
I do say that if you were to have this TV, if you were to switch the belts here, I still say that her reign is what would be the world women's title would be better than Mariah May's title reign so far.
we'll
Like
talk about that here in a minute because I think it took a nice turn.
it took a
Um,
nice turn, but it took 3-4 months to get there.
well, it took 6 months to get there from Tony being timeless and being the worst thing in AEW to the best thing in AEW, all in that 6 month period. I mean, that's
Tony,
Tony
I
likes
miss
to do
Tony
his.
so
I do
much.
too. I
Oh
do too. Now
God,
here's my final bit on it. Okay, um, she won that title from Julia, right?
she won it from Willow,
Who won it from Julia
who won it from Julia. Julia had to move the belt because she was injured.
because she was
I
injured.
have no clue whether the belt was even going to be on the line initially. Because they had to move the belt.
Yeah,
So for all we know, because we're not in those meetings, maybe the title was never even on the line in the first place in the original drafts of those plans. But because they moved the title over to Willow and they immediately wanted to put Willow against Monet because of the injury that was unfortunately caused the year prior, which is,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, that was the story that made the most sense for her first match. And then they
Oh yeah,
made
yeah.
a
I
decision
agree. They made
afterward.
the right decision with the first feud.
I so I don't know whether the plan was to put the belt on her initially at all, and that maybe the Julia Hart injury messed things up or not, and then they pivoted. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could
Now,
be
see,
either way.
if that's the case, then fine. If she exerted some kind of creative control to wrest this belt away from people who are more deserving of it than she is, then that's an issue. Will
I
we
don't
ever know
know.
the
Like
answer? Will we ever know the answer to that question? Probably not. Unless somebody like
It's
Willow or Julia says this is
yeah.
what happened, but they're too classy. They're not going to do
Yeah.
that.
It's
So
it's too, it's really difficult to tell too because like on the one hand, you know, the way Mercedes left WWE was very much mired in controversy. Some people, there are a lot of people with big opinions about that. WWE certainly had its opinion, its unprofessional way of handling that, like just denouncing them on air. Like
yeah,
that sucked. Like I don't even know why Naomi ever went back after that. But like if somebody did that to me when all I was doing was standing up for myself and what to me I take those ladies' side on this one because like especially considering the history of the WWE women's tag belts being chronically overlooked and chronically devalued. Yeah, I get where they were coming from. I totally, and that's not even the first time they did that to the then Sasha Banks. Like they moved the belts over to Iconic 6 weeks after they became the first champions for no reason, zero reason. They were super, they lobbied for the belts creation. They lobbied to be the first champions to put them on the map and to, travel across all three brands to defend them and this, that, the other thing. They had one successful title defense in NXT, and then they lose the belts at WrestleMania. And then they pull this crap with her and Naomi a few years later. Yeah, I would be annoyed too. I would be feel disrespected too. I would feel lied to as well. So yeah, go do your thing, girl. But like at the same time, does standing up for yourself really mean that you're a backstage politic or not? Does it mean that you have a huge inflated ego or not? From the stuff that she posts and other people post of her backstage in AEW, how she interacts with other people, she seems like she's really cool. Like really like giving like who was it she gave a bottle of tequila to? Like I think it was Dax. Like I, I mean, she seems like she's trying to ingratiate herself with the locker room, not divide it up for her own betterment or her own advantage. So that's only what we see though. We don't see what we don't see.
yeah.
So I don't know. It's tough to parse out. Like you said, unless a bunch of corroborating interviews come out probably long after the fact to to parse out what exactly did happen or something close to it, then we'll probably never know.
Yeah.
But for me, like I want to give her the benefit of the doubt.
I would try to give her more. I mean, I do. I don't think she's a terrible person or a terrible wrestler. I I definitely would love them to stop piping in that CEO chant one day to see how big it actually is, because
I
you
mean, I
can
think it
never
works as a
tell.
heel.
You can, well, I mean,
I think it
of
works
course
as
it
a
does,
heel.
but you can never tell. And I'm sorry, man, but I need like some kind of measurable metric for your highest paid superstars who I feel like you are
Yeah.
definitely underusing. Her and Okada, bro, like book them better.
I mean, she's getting TV time every week. I'd say they're getting
Yeah,
their money's worth out of her.
but they're definitely
Okada
not out of
is here
Okada.
and there
That's
though.
yeah.
But that may be if he's not. I don't think he lives stateside.
I don't think he does either, and I
So,
think giving him such a ridiculous contract to not live over here and be working every week is bad move.
well, I mean, they did the similar thing with Osprey so that he could be at home in England with his family. So
He's there
I don't.
every damn week though. So
He is
like,
there.
and
He
he's
is there
doing
every
way
week.
more than just saying ha 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 bitch. I mean, like
No, he's
it
saying
was
bruv.
yeah, okay, of course, but bruh. But but yeah, I feel like there needs to be way more Okada for like the reports of his high level contract and being like one of the highest paid guys. I'm like, you brought over the Rainmaker and you're doing like nothing with the guy.
Well, I mean, the C
I mean,
two
now
is
we're going to change the but we're going to
yeah,
talk about how that's going to change. But
yeah. That's
um,
going to be a major point of discussion
thank
here in a
God.
little bit. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, moving on.
yeah.
Kyle Fletcher versus Will Osprey. Uh, Another freaking banger, classic out of Will Osprey. The guy, I mean, in my opinion, Brian Danielson is I think probably the best to ever do it. But Will Osprey is very close, at the very least, of active wrestlers. Man, like I don't think it's possible for Will Ospreay to have a 3-star match at this
No.
point. Like that's how good the dude
Maybe
is.
if he had a tag match. Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I'm talking singles here. Like
Yeah.
even then, like he usually lifts up those tags anyway. But like Fletcher's a fantastic wrestler. Osprey always makes his opponents look great, but the latter went way out of his way to make the former look good. Like Fletcher looked like an absolute, just savant,
Yeah.
absolute wrestling savant here. Lots and lots of counters, which is logical. They build them up that they've known each other so well for ages, United Empire and all that stuff. So that makes sense. I know a lot of people, don't like the back and forth, the too choreographed nature of it. But like in this case, I mean, what else would you do with guys who have been best friends for years? Um, Fletcher targeted the taped up neck and shoulder of Osprey, who was, uh, he came to the ring in Punisher themed gear, and unlike most people who wear Punisher themed gear, he probably gets the character. Uh,
Yeah.
he At one point, Fletcher escaped a Stormbreaker attempt on the apron and hit Osprey with a tombstone piledriver, jumping off the ring apron onto the steel steps that were set up there, and it was just it was over from there. Like it wasn't immediately over, but at that point, that's Osprey was done. Like he didn't get any significant offense for the next 3 or 4 minutes. Like it was just Fletcher just dominating him, just keep trying to break him down. Osprey fighting as best he could, but he had no strength left. Even another hidden blade, he couldn't launch himself. Fletcher just like stood there and just no sold it. Lots of strikes, a gnarly looking kneeling pile driver, and a top rope brainbuster later. And Fletcher gets the clean win over Will Ospreay. Um, Now this is going to lead into what I feel was less good, or that I liked less, I guess I should say. And it's touching on something you brought up just a few minutes ago. The wrestling being good, but the results being questionable.
Mhm.
I hated, I hated that Osprey lost clean here. There was no shenanigans, no nothing. Like I know that you're trying to make Kyle Fletcher, and yeah, you know what? You'll go ahead and do it. But like, I don't know, where do you go from here? Like, yeah, you've got them. Obviously, we'll talk about the C2, and they're both in that. Well, spoilers, but like, I don't know where you go from here with that. It's like Fletcher already beat him, clean as a sheet. Like, this is Will Ospreay, best wrestler in the world, right? And he's had several big high profile losses in a row. Like he's not even been in the company a year, and he's already being kind of relegated to the guy that puts other people over. Like I don't know if I like that. Like I know I'm a bias because I'm a really big Will Ospreay fan, but like I don't like it. And that was like a theme running through the whole thing. Like Mercedes winning, it didn't bother me too much, but like Jay White gets a second straight clean win over Hangman Page. Hated that. Match was good. Match was solid psychologically. Match was creative in a few places,
That's
like really creative.
awesome.
But like Jay White still wins clean. What the heck are you doing? And then that leads into the end of the match, the end of the show angle too, where it doesn't even make sense that Paige is involved. We'll get to it later. Doesn't even make sense for Paige to be involved since like he's had two really big high profile losses after really like he technically speaking for the record he didn't really even beat Swerve Strickland at All Out because it was a lights out match. It doesn't count towards the record. So really, what is Paige being doing inserted into the biggest angle in the show when he's very clearly being portrayed as kind of a loser? Don't get it. Don't like it. Don't get it. Um, I just he was made to look like post match angles be damned. The main character of AEW was made to look like an absolute doofus again. There's he's Rodney Dangerfield. He just gets no
Okay.
respect.
Question.
Yeah.
Would it make sense if we are driving Hangman through a losing streak to make him even more unhinged?
I mean, the way I look at this is like they're making him pay for his sins, and be eventually get to that point where he hits rock bottom and he's self-reflective again. But we've already done this. We've already done this with him, and honestly, maybe this is me being a little biased here because like I like Jay White all right, but he's not my dude, and I kind of hate seeing that guy beat my guy. Like I know it's kayfabe and I'm being a mark and I get it, but like, what's so fucking special about Jay White? He's not the main character of this show.
Well, I would
Like
argue that right now neither is Hangman. So
his story, his is, I mean, it hits different with every person individually, and I know that he comes and goes, but like the through line is his mental illness that I really really relate to personally. So to me, he's always going to be the main character, and I know that that's the way it is for a lot of people. Probably not most. Being realistic, I don't assume everybody feels the same way I do, but I can only speak for myself, and that's myself. I'm like, what's the point of having Jay White beat him twice in a row clean? Like, you're not going to put the belt on Jay White.
well,
You're not going to. You're not going to do it. He's not going to beat John Moxley. Darby Allin's going to beat John Moxley. So what are we even doing
see, I don't agree with that.
here? No, it's going to
I
happen.
don't know that Darby Allin's going to beat John Moxley.
He will. As soon as they said you'll never be world champion, it was written in stone.
I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all because card's subject to change. So I don't believe that at all. Nothing.
Unless he dies on Mount Everest when he goes up. And that's another thing.
You tell me. Hold on.
Jay White was the guy who broke Darby Allin's foot. He carried around Sting's bat as a trophy. And all of that just completely forgotten. He comes back from injury. Oh, I'm a good guy. People like me now. Darby hasn't said crap about it. Like, I thought this was the place where continuity was supposed to matter.
I mean, once you have so many running thread lines, I mean, it's kind of hard to keep continuity in some cases, especially when it has to be the same people interacting over and over again. But I don't. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I do not. I 100% do not believe Darby Allin is going to beat John Moxley because I 100% believe. I 100% believe, like in my soul, that Tony Khan is going to drag this out until he can have Eddie Kingston back, and Eddie Kingston is going to beat John Moxley.
I would accept that, but
I think everybody would.
I think it's going to be Darby, and then he immediately drops it to Christian when he cashes in.
I mean, that's possible.
I don't think they have.
They got to do. They need to do something with that damn contract soon. I was really hoping it was going to be last night, but since it's not,
yeah.
Yeah,
and other things like MJF was the right guy to go over Roddy Strong, but like, where was the Kingdom? Where was the Undisputed Kingdom throughout that whole thing?
They're not here.
Why were they not ringside? It wasn't a Continental title match. Where were they? Why did they come in late after his leg had already been Pillmanized? What is this? Like, I also didn't like the TNT title spot. Like, the match was good and the right guy went over for the right reasons, but they put him right after Fletcher and Ospreay. Like, oh my Lord. Like, what are we even doing?
They had a job ahead of them to get the crowd back into it, but I think they did it good. I thought it was a great match. Yeah,
they had them by the end. They absolutely had them by the end.
And this one, I agree with the booking also, along with thinking it was a great match. But really, the way it was booked was just a cherry on top because in this match, I went from being a Jack Perry hater to a Jack Perry appreciator.
Yeah,
And
he's got this nihilist Raven
it all
thing
made sense to me in
good
this
now. Yeah,
match because we had a white meat. I mean, okay, he's not maybe he's a dark meat baby face, if
yeah,
you want to call Daniel Garcia that.
yeah. He's juicy.
But
He's
but
yeah,
we had a like a dreamer Raven thing going on here
yeah,
that's where it made it click in my head. I was like, oh, this is like Dreamer Raven. Like this guy is
yeah,
just a nihilist who doesn't give a shit about anything, and this guy over here is chasing after this thing that he cares about very very much, and this other guy doesn't give a shit about it at all.
yeah,
And once it clicked, I was like, okay. And then the match was just good, man.
yeah. The
It
match
was
was
just
good.
good.
It was a little slow going in the beginning, but by the end, man, like that cross-legged pile driver, oof,
God, dude,
that
yeah,
was
that hook pile
tasty.
driver, I was just like, Jesus Christ,
And then
man.
he won with the Dragon Tamer, which he hadn't used. I don't think he'd used it since the Continental Classic when he kept getting hooked his head hooked from behind when he leaned back so far. And
Yeah,
he got like the immediate tap after he did that too. Like it
yeah.
was it was really the
They were
Buffalo
basically
represent.
chanting lean back whenever
Yeah.
he had it. He had him in that sharpshooter, and
Yeah.
everybody, like, they were basically lean back.
Every single person in that audience was Fat Joe from about
Yeah,
2007.
lean
Lean
back,
back, lean
lean
back.
back.
So yeah, no, I mean that, but like man, they did it no favors putting it in that spot. They got him
Oh,
back,
no.
but like, oof,
Yeah,
it was, yeah, it was touch and go there. I was worried that it wasn't gonna do all that well because of the timing of it and the placement of it. So like,
yeah,
there were a lot of booking decisions that I felt were the wrestling never let me down. The wrestling itself, the art form that I love, did not let me down because it's still an AEW pay per view. So between those ropes, everything was good to great, and in one or two cases, fantastic. But yeah, yeah, a lot of the extraneous stuff, it, it
yeah.
left me really cold. And that brings us to the world title match, the main event between Orange Cassidy and John Moxley. Um, Again, this match was excellently wrestled. Psychology was great. It was a lot. It reminded me a lot of their last fight, actually, over the international title with Cassidy, knowing he had to get things going early and often. But then Mox eventually shut him down, forced him to take a bloody beating for the majority of the match. I'm not really a big fan of the way Mox actually goes about wrestling sometimes. He just looks really wonky, and um, but at least he's believable with his character. Like I mean,
Yeah.
he believes it's real, so you believe it's real. uh, uh, I think he takes his character a tad too seriously, personally. Because like he's the most protected guy on the roster, and it's not a bad thing in and of itself. You want the guy that you consider to be your biggest star and your biggest ace to look consistently good. But like I feel that years of him being put in the position where he's this big monster, tough guy that I mean, how many orange punches did he take in this match?
So
Like
many.
so many. Like
Oh,
you know, it was just. I granted, he's the only guy that works on, but that's the problem is that there's a guy that works for, and his name is John Moxley, and it's like I don't know if this being this big bad monster really works with being the cowardly heel that has all his cronies do his dirty work at the same time. I don't really know that those two really mix all that well. So like I don't know, like his presentation doesn't really hit with me, and being a four-time champion when nobody else that's still in the company anyway has won the world title any more than once. Doesn't really sit well with me. You're creeping up on John Cena syndrome there. But this match, it actually kind of works because Cassidy is another one of those guys. He's really sympathetic when he takes a kicking, and he just keeps coming back, blood pouring down his face. Like it was, he just keeps on trucking there and wears, picks his spots and wears down Moxley a little bit by a little bit. Like again, like their last match. Only this had way more outside shenanigans because the BCC were mostly hands off, whereas the Death Riders certainly are not. Uh, Eventually, Cassidy hits a couple of orange punches and a beach break for a close 2 count. But that's the cue for Pac and Claudio to join Marina Shafir at ringside. They just threaten to get involved, but that gets Ishii and Kyle O'Reilly and Rocky Romero to show up. Eventually, Rocky Romero gets on the top rope and jumps onto everybody on the outside before they can actually interfere in the match physically. But that distraction allows Shafir to get in the ring and threaten with the briefcase to hit Orange Cassidy. But finally, there's a woman that can equalize Shafir so that we don't have to feel bad that she's getting her butt kicked. When Willow Nightingale makes her return from injury, aligned with her conglomeration teammates, and just destroys Shafir. Just completely takes her out of the equation. They brawl on the outside for a while. But the briefcase that supposedly holds the world title belt is left in the ring. So Cassidy, already, having taken a drubbing and being on the receiving end of, chicanery from, it's not bad when a babyface cheats as long as they've been the victim of cheating earlier in the match, right? I mean, that's just wrestling logic 101. So he takes the case and just blasts Mox with it in the face. It reminded me of one of those old Shane McMahon leaping chair shots. Like it was just like right in the face. And the ref turns around just in time to see him for him to not see the shot with the case, but in time to make just the closest near fall. Like this match was so well done, I actually bought in for a moment and thought, oh my gosh, are they actually going to do this even after a 42-day reign? And they didn't do that. But it made me believe, and that's the secret sauce, right? Is making you believe.
Yeah.
Cassidy removes the elbow pad to give him one last orange punch, only for Mox to grab the referee to obstruct his vision so that Yuta could hit Cassidy with the Busaiku knee, because he was the one Death Rider that wasn't there, so you knew he was coming. And then one Death Rider double underhook DDT, the move, not the stable, later, and it's over. But of course, it's not over because here we go. Bear with me because there's a lot of post-match shenanigans attached to this. So I'm just going to try and run it down, and hopefully it all makes some kind of chronological sense. So after the bell, Yuta and Mox get a hold of some like Windex or something. It's in a spray bottle that doesn't have a top on it. It's blue, so I assume Windex, window cleaner, and they like pour it like down his throat, which is just awful. Just ugh.
Okay.
But then
Right here, they said that that's the stuff they use to clean the ring up with, like for the blood spots and stuff. So that would make it degreaser,
okay,
which is so much
well,
worse than index.
oh, it would also have an antiseptic agent to it as well if you're talking about blood.
Yeah.
So
So much worse than
disgusting
index.
and gross. I
Yes.
imagine that it's gimmicked. I imagine
I
that
hope
it's
so.
water or soda that they tinted blue
Blued
or
up.
whatever.
Yeah.
But like, ugh, oh my
Uh,
god,
yeah.
it just ugh. But then of all people, Hangman Adam Page comes down to the ring with the chair and just uh, decks Yuto in the ribs with it, and then he and Mox have a really intense stare down, which the crowd was actually kind of hyped for, even though they didn't really know what was going on. And then you added further not knowing what was going on too when Christian took that opportunity. Christian Cage came out and hit the kill switch on him, and then it looked like he and Hangman might have like some words, but then Hangman just kind of hobbles off, still selling the leg from the earlier match, and just kind of leaves him there. And so it looks like he's gonna about to sign the contract when Jay White comes in and interrupts that, even though he must have walked right past Hangman Page. So I don't know why Page didn't get involved there. I,
Right.
but that let that all that stuff let Mox and the Death Riders escape to the parking lot, and we're still not done because they were forced to steal a car when their truck was T-boned by Darby Allin to end the show. Like, and this was, I don't know if it was Darby actually in there. He was bleeding when he finally showed up. So, I mean, I don't know if that was to sell it or if he actually did his own stunt. But they actually T-boned this car at like full speed.
Yeah, that shit was
They
going fast.
destroyed two cars
Yeah, they definitely
for
destroyed both
this
of those
one
cars.
angle.
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to earlier about aren't we lucky that we have billionaires who are willing to spend obscene amounts of money just to total cars to further angles.
Right.
But yeah, like it was Darby Allin is the guy who is the final shot that the camera has, and he's bleeding, and he's taking his skateboard to the windshield of the truck that they had all come in that they had to evacuate from. Like it was madness. It was absolute way overbooked madness. But what I will say in its favor is that it was the first time that we've kind of finally, even though Moxley won, seen the Death Riders on the run and starting to reap what they've sown. Like they've caused all this damage and chaos and horrendous violence all throughout. And now I can't remember who said it. It was somebody on my Blue Sky feed. But they put it really succinctly. They said it's nice to see them being the hunted and not the hunters after all this time. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you know what? I mean, this is like their endgame. This is what they wanted, right? And now they're running like scalded dogs. So I mean, to me, it was still way, way overbooked, and you could tell that the live audience had no clue what was going on. Like this was an extended period of time. It was like 7 or 8 minutes after the match actually ended that all this stuff went down. But honestly, to the point that they were making, it's like, yeah, look at all this madness that you've caused by your actions over the past 3 or 4 months now, and this is the world that you've now created, Death Riders, and you're eventually gonna get yours from it. And that, if that's the takeaway, I'm more okay with it than I normally would be.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the first time that we've actually seen the Death Riders scared of anything. And to be fair, rightfully so. Darby Allin's a maniac. But like,
Yeah.
I think that I think that it was a little overbooked, but and I have no idea why. Like again, like why is Page in this? He shouldn't be sniffing the world title with all the losses he's been taking. But it almost seems like they're headed for a 4-way with Mox, Christian Cage, Hangman, and Jay White at this point. Like that seems to be where they're going with this. And I'm like, why is Page here? He doesn't deserve to be in it
Well,
from like a win-loss standpoint. He
what
just
I
doesn't.
kind of hope, what I kind of hope is that it's they're booking this like more people are getting tired of this shit.
Yeah,
Like it's not just Orange Cassidy and the conglomeration and Darby anymore. Now
yeah,
Hangman's like, you know what? I love this place, and you're trying to fuck it up.
yeah. I mean, I
No,
can see him going either way with it though. Like
yeah.
I
I
can
mean,
see like he hates
time will
Moxley.
tell.
History shows that he and Moxley do not care for one another. And Hangman is one of the only guys to beat Moxley. I think he's the only one in AEW to beat him by submission when he in that Texas Death Match where he wrapped the chain around and hanged him over the side of the ring with it.
Yeah.
Like I think he's the only one who can claim that. He's certainly one of the only ones who can claim to have beaten Moxley in one-on-one action of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a really short list in AEW. Um, and but and but I can see him going either way. because like yeah, he loves AEW maybe more than anybody else, but AEW in his eyes kind of turned on him, and despite his love for it, so maybe that's another thing he wants to watch burn. So I could see him eventually going either way. I couldn't see him joining the Death Riders, but I could definitely see him stepping aside and abstaining when he could help,
Yeah.
given the character that he has now. But I could see it going the other way too, if that's how they want to handle his redemption. I could see it going either way with that, and that's what makes me intrigued about it. But he shouldn't be in a world title match. Like the dude is, he's not won a high profile match since making it to the finals of the Owen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But I
I don't
mean,
know.
overall, the match, Full Gear was very strange. Like all the wrestling was, like I said, good to fantastic in terms of quality. But like I had a lot of issues with a lot of the booking decisions outside of the actual wrestling
Um,
of it.
the only thing I did, okay, so like I didn't feel like this was as good as a normal AEW pay per view is.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the general consensus. I see a lot of love for it, but I'm also only looking at it on Blue Sky and as
Well, go look
positive
on
and
Twitter because that is
I'm not even going
absolutely
to open Twitter.
unanimously
Okay, like
bad.
I will not say a whole lot of bad things about Blue Sky except that guys, I love the super positive environment, but let's not approach toxic positivity, please. Things do have problems, and we are allowed not to like things
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
But
That
I
being said, I
I
don't think
I
that we
didn't
should.
dislike I didn't dislike this. I didn't dislike this pay per view. I just didn't think it was as good as other pay per views,
Yeah.
especially recent other AEW pay per views that have been banger.
Yeah.
Like this one, I
Yeah.
thought it was a good pay per view. I just didn't think it was as good. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I
I'm
think
not
that's
gonna give
fair.
I'm not gonna give all the love to the Bobby Lashley and Swerve match as a bunch of other people did because I thought it was boring as hell.
I
Um,
mean, I to me, Swerve. We didn't talk about it, but
yeah,
to me, Swerve is still the guy that they chose over Hangman, even after all that Swerve did to him. And Swerve has never apologized. He's never, to me, anytime, I don't think much of Lashley. I think he's a charisma black hole, and you know, he starts sweating profusely inside of a minute. And
no, God, yeah, dude, he
but
was so sweaty for somebody in such good
yeah,
shape.
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a freak athlete. There are certain things that he does that are fine, and having MVP as a mouthpiece will only do him favors. But
Mhm.
to me, I'm not a big Bobby Lashley fan. That said, it was nice to see Swerve get stomped for me personally, since I'm such a Hanger fan. Like
Uh,
like
you're not
like
just a
no,
Hager fan. You're
this
kind of a
is
Swerve hater.
I am a little I will give the man his props. Like I love Swerve the wrestler. I hate Swerve the character.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I don't really
You
like
know,
either, but I love the
like
wrestler. So
I want it's like I want justice. I want justice. I'm
so
a
his
justice
house
fueled
getting burned
person.
down wasn't enough. And house
No,
getting burned down and then beaten in the subsequent match
no,
wasn't
because he
enough.
never admitted anything that he did was wrong.
Okay. So this you don't want justice. You want a confession.
Yes, yes, I want him to admit that what he did
You
was
want
wrong. That is
amends.
just. That is right. That is what is deserved.
But yeah, I mean, other than those couple of things, like I really just didn't like this Lashley match, man. And I really
No, I can see that.
didn't think that the pay per view was as like it wasn't a bad pay per view, just wasn't as good as the last few AEW pay per views I've watched. So
I mean, that's a high bar. Like
it's a pretty yeah. They can't
AEW
always
has
be
not had a
killing.
single bad one. They've had
Yeah,
some hit and miss ones, but there's not been a single AEW pay per view that has been
it is
outright bad.
it
Not
is
a
hard to
single one.
keep up that level of output. It really is.
Yeah.
And even this is not that far out of their level of output. It's just not
No.
as good. So,
Yeah.
if they have a lull for a month as we head into World's End, where we're going to get some more banger matches and like the C2 end and all that, and going into the C2, which is like my favorite part of the year because this is the
Oh my
best
gosh, I can't wait
matches.
for it.
This
I'm
is the
so
best
I'm so
matches all
pumped.
year long. I'm so pumped for this. But yeah, if this is the little bit of a lull, like the calm before the storm, as it were, as we wrap up the year, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a hell of a lot to talk about when we come back after our break.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was easily an A+ show. But all the other shows have been
You have
like
to
S.
compare it
They've been
twice. You
S
have to
tier,
compare. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so. This
It
just being an A+ is not as good as the rest of them because they've been S tier, but
yeah, you have
it's
to
not
look
bad.
at it on its own merits and in relation to its forebears,
Yes, exactly,
you know.
exactly. So,
So
on its own merits, it was a good show. I'm not really complaining about that at all. I enjoyed it. I even am not a huge fan of like the Mariah May and Mina
Shirakawa.
Shirakawa. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always want to pronounce her name differently, and I always try not to mispronounce it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Somebody's name. You should get it
yeah,
right. Yeah.
Mina
I get it.
and Mariah, I wasn't really into it because I mean I know I'm a dude, I don't have a dog in this fight, but my wife super doesn't like the whole booby shaking thing. And
Yeah.
she just doesn't like seeing women objectify themselves or be objectified on TV. That's just what it is. And I'm okay
I
with that.
think
I understand it. But
yeah.
but this I think once she actually gets to view it, because she hasn't got to see the pay-per-view yet, but I think once she gets to view it, well, she'll like this too. Because this was a
Yeah.
great turn. I mean, we
Yeah.
got super violence. I don't know if Mina has got a broken jaw or missing a tooth or what,
I think she
but
might have bit her tongue
I don't know what happened, man.
because
I also thought maybe I don't know.
I saw a picture of her uh a few hours ago. Somebody posted on Blue Sky. She was smiling and she had her all her teeth, but she had
Okay.
an enormous goose egg on her head.
Dude,
Like
they
she must have
bounced
hit.
off that table, hit the second table, went through it, and hit
Oof,
their heads on the concrete.
yeah,
Their heads
like
hit the concrete for sure.
so. I'm wondering if maybe she bit the inside of her lip or her tongue or something like that because her teeth seemed fine.
I
But
couldn't really tell because she was kind of covering up with her lips and like rolling her
yeah,
tongue around and stuff. And like I thought
yeah,
maybe she had like a stage blood capsule in there or something, and that's what she wiped on Mariah. But then
maybe.
I heard other and that's like she was rolling it around her mouth. And that's why her mouth was making all those weird movements. But if she bit her tongue or lost a tooth or broke her jaw, that would explain that in one of three ways. If she bit her tongue though, that would provide the blood
Yeah.
and not have done as near a bad a damage to her as would living like jaw or tooth.
And oddly enough, I guess even if she did break her jaw, that wouldn't even be the first time. Apparently, a few years ago in Stardom, she I don't know, she took something wrong or landed wrong or whatever, and yeah, she broke her jaw.
Oh wow.
So like, girl, yeah, I mean, she plays this, I mean, she was a former Gravure model, and she plays that up as part of her character. But that girl's tough.
She is
Like,
pretty tough. I mean, after
she is
that bump,
tough.
and she got up from that bump, and I mean, it was
Yeah,
that shit was nasty. I mean, we had a total like I am the table, regular
yeah,
table bump, and Baja Mania level head crash, like
yeah.
all in one swift
Oof.
motion. And I
Yeah,
don't think that
also,
was their fault at all. I think whoever set up those
no,
tables should have put them a couple feet out because they were right up butted against the thing. And you got to understand if you're going to spear somebody off the stage at any
you're
angle,
covering
you're going
distance.
a
Yeah,
couple of feet out at least. Those tables should not have been that close to the stage. This probably wouldn't have happened if they had been moved out a foot or whatever. Hindsight's 2020. I'm not going to seek out that person who did that's name to try to out them to the public or anything like that. But hey, bro, if you're listening, next time
yeah,
do better, please. Okay.
yeah. I mean, I would have. I wonder if that would have been better served rehearsing with Crash Mat beforehand
Definitely would have.
to
It would
see
have been
what
better
kind of
served having a crash match.
yeah.
Bro, I don't think any of us would have been mad at it, would you? I wouldn't
I
have.
wouldn't have. No, I
So
would have kind of like been like, why is there a Crash Mat there? Oh, that's why.
oh, that's why. Yeah, but we're keeping our wrestlers safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course there's a
Yes.
crash pad.
Also,
You
but
know,
before it goes unmentioned, I thought her kick of that champagne bottle was
dude,
nice.
she did that in
That was
5 inch
amazing.
platforms. That was crazy as fuck. She
That was
roundhouse kicked that shit out of her hand with like
that
five
was
inch
so
platform shoes
impressive.
on. I
That
was
was so
impressed.
impressive.
Yeah, I was a
Yeah,
little impressed.
like for people who think that she's only about the the character and not about the in ring. That girl, I couldn't do what she just did.
Yeah, I
No
couldn't do
way.
that either. Not
I
now.
couldn't do that with that accuracy and that force and that. I mean, granted, it was a gimmick bottle, but she shattered it. She shattered it on contact.
Yeah.
That wasn't
I
from
don't know
it
if they planned
falling
that
on
either because
the
Mariah looked.
stage. But like that girl, oof, I wouldn't want to be on the end of that kick. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it was crazy. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see where this goes now, especially with that
yeah, yeah.
gnarly
It's
crash.
it's
But
we've been treading water
it
to
has been.
get to
It
this
has been.
point because she had dates in Japan probably that she
Yeah.
needed. She probably had stardom dates that she needed to fulfill her commitments on,
You
and
know what though?
that's fine, but unfortunate, but fine. Like,
Yeah. Now,
I mean,
before we move to the Caught in the Ring segment, I
mhm.
have to issue a bit of an apology to someone.
I think I know where this is going.
I hope you do, but if you don't, this might be out of left field for you. So I'm going to issue a bit of an apology. Well, a couple of different people, actually. First of all, sorry, Jack Perry, for not getting your character before now and not really understanding what was going on there. But I enjoyed it. So cool. You changed my mind. And I'm always open to have my mind changed. My second thing, though, is something that didn't actually happen on the pay-per-view this week.
Yep.
Um, and it's only some I did watch Rampage, so it's only something I've seen clips of. All right. But
Right.
I griped last week when we were talking about Mina and Harley and how Harley
Yeah.
only was shaking her tits and Mina's doing the same thing. And now I kind of understand why Harley was shaking her tits, though. Because now, after the third week of this thing happening, I've realized that Harley is working a gimmick infringement angle.
Yeah.
And so the cat paint and all that stuff and making fun of Thunder Rosa was gimmick infringement on Thunder Rosa. And then she shook her boobs to have gimmick infringement on Mina because she breaks these gimmicks down to their barest thing. You
Yeah.
know, Harley Graham this week was fucking
Amazing.
hilarious. Okay. God
Amazing.
damn it.
This is
Okay.
not what
So
I thought
I'm
you were going to
sorry.
talk about. It's not what I thought you were going to talk about, but I'm glad to talk
I've
about it
only
because
saw the
she's
clips of it because, like I
hilarious.
said, I haven't seen Rampage, but I always think the gimmick infringement things are funny. Like
Yeah.
when Mizdow was doing it, or
Oh,
when Sandow was doing just
classic.
everybody's gimmicks. Like I
Classic.
fucking loved that shit. So if she pulls it off even half as good, which it seems like she's doing it in the comedic fashion that it deserves, and is doing well at it. Like okay, I'll let her run with it and see what happens and try to enjoy it because it's kind of funny that they were like, we're gonna escort Harley Cameron out of the building, and then she shows back up with hologram's mascot. Is like, oh no, I'm Harley Graham. Like
And then she's doing this like robot voice thing.
yeah, I I thought it was
Oh,
funny. Now I'm
she's
curious as to what you thought I was going to apologize about.
I will save that for next week.
Oh, all right.
I'll save that for next week's Call in the Ring segment.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm curious even more. How dare you put me in such suspense?
Oh no, building suspense for next week's show. What am I, a
A
content
professional or
creator?
something?
Goodness gracious.
How dare you be professional?
Well,
Um, okay,
it's about
so
time I got there. Yeah,
so my dear listeners, you and I are all in suspense as to what
yeah.
this at now is because now I'm like, what could he possibly want me to apologize for? Because I mean, I will say this, and Adam's heard it from me a million times, but none of you have got to hear this yet. But I am an asshole in this equation between the two of us. I am
Yeah,
the asshole totally. Adam is a nice, wonderful, complete white meat baby face.
I wouldn't go that far.
And no, you don't even give me that. Adam is like one of the legitimate nicest people I've ever met in my life, and I've met thousands of people. Adam is by far one of the nicest people I know. I am way big of an asshole to be like to even have a friend this nice. Um, so Adam is a total white meat baby face to my total heel. I am an asshole, but I'm his asshole. So please do not come for Adam unless you come for me first. So,
I'm glad I have. I have a heater.
but yeah, so Adam's got a heater. But yeah, now I'm like, what does Adam
Oh,
want
we'll
me to
we'll talk about it.
apologize for? Okay,
We'll talk about it.
All right.
But we'll save that for next week. This is the
Yeah.
rare week where I actually have. Uh, okay. Well, let's go right to it. Call it in the ring.
Call the ring.
I had something different in mind
Two different.
for this week. I had a couple of different ideas,
Yeah.
but then earlier today, on Sunday, as we're recording this, Tony Khan dropped, "Hey, we're gonna release the names of all the participants in the Continental Classic, and it's gonna be at 10:30 at night on the East Coast." And I'm like,
What an asshole.
um, okay, like I don't know why you're doing this way at this time or whatever. It happens to be though in the middle of us recording, so we're gonna
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah. We stopped. We literally stopped recording and went and watched it. Came back
Yeah,
so we could
we
talk about this.
yes, both of us absolutely adored last year's Continental Classic.
Hell yeah, I did.
It was one of the few bright spots in a really kind of spotty year for AEW. Like it really ended the year on a
On a
bit more of a
positive.
high, hopeful note.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and so like as soon as we found this out, Aaron texted me. He's like, "This is what's going to happen." I'm like, maybe we should do that.
Yeah.
The other stuff we were going to talk about this week is not time sensitive. So this is timely. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So
Now,
if
do
you're
you want to split this? Do you want to like you do gold and I'll do blue, or do you just want to
yeah,
go down
sure.
the list of both and like just talk about each one individually? Or
Um let's first list the participants in each league, and
okay,
then we can talk about possibilities.
okay,
So do you want to do blue? You want to list gold or blue?
I'll do blue.
Okay,
Uh, so for
go
our
ahead.
blue league, we have our reigning and defending champion Kazuchika Okada,
Mm-hmm.
as well as Kyle Fletcher, Daniel Garcia, Mark Briscoe, Shelton Benjamin, and the Beast Mortos.
Yeah, baby.
Yes.
Gold. In the gold league, we have Will Ospreay, Juice Robinson, Brody King, Ricochet, Claudio Castagnoli, and Darby Allin.
Oh man,
Holy crap, what a field.
man, oh
Like,
man.
across both leagues, what a freaking field. I am so excited about the possibilities for this.
Oh, me too.
I can't call a winner yet.
Oh no,
Honestly,
I can't
there are a lot of
possibly.
stories. There are a lot of stories that are interweaving, just like last year. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, which one of these is going to take like top precedent here?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we know that the winner of the blue league and the winner of the gold league are going to face each other.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of interesting options that immediately stand out. Like to me, the
Yeah.
one that immediately stands out is Kyle Fletcher rematching with Will Ospreay. We were talking about where do we go from here. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
this is where they go from here.
Right. Maybe it is. Um, I mean, obviously, I think Kazuchika Okada is probably going to take Blue League. I
Yeah, I
expect
think
it because
yeah,
he's defending champion. However, what I like about this entire field on both sides is that I can't tell you who actually is going to win because
yeah.
of the
Oh,
way
I
this is
love
done.
it.
Now, the only one that I'm pretty sure of how it's going to turn out for this person is Mark Briscoe. And the only reason I say this is because Mark Briscoe last year was our penny.
Yeah,
Mark Briscoe ate the pin for freaking everybody last year, except like one match, I think.
yeah.
Um, I forget who it was against, but I think he won. Yeah, I think he lost everything but
Jay
one
Lethal,
match against Jay Lethal. Okay, so Mark,
because
but
Jay
since
Lethal was the only one to escape the tournament with no points.
yeah, so since then he's become got and lost the ROH World Heavyweight Championship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he's still going to eat the pins again this year, but I think that his involvement in him being the pin eater as a former ROH World Champion is how Tony Khan is going to raise the bar of this tournament. Like, hey, the person who did the worst was a former ROH World Champion.
Yeah,
So it's not like we have jobbers or just one-off guys in this tournament. We don't do that.
yeah.
Now, that contrary to popular belief, I don't see Speedball Mike Bailey on this list.
Yeah. I
That
was
was a
kind of
big
I'm
thing.
one.
Everybody was assuming
Yeah.
to see a speedball on here, and he's not on
I,
here. So that
I
actually
was kind of
furthers
assuming
my
too.
belief that Tony Khan is trying to make this a premier wrestling tournament, and that we are going to, at the end of this, say the guy who did the worst was the ROH World Champion this year, and everybody else is
Yeah.
that much better. Wow, like this tournament really is a high level of
Yeah.
competition because
It.
we have G1 winners on here. We have
Yeah.
Super Junior winners on here. We've got the Beast
Yeah.
Mortos on here, which is a complete wild card because I think he has a
Oh,
chance to win it.
I. Oh my God. I would love. I mean, I love so many of these competitors.
I
It
do
would
too.
be so great to see the Beast Mortos in there. I really just fear that he's in there to be the Jay Lethal, though. I really, because
Yeah,
like he
maybe
doesn't
he
win.
is.
I love
Yeah.
Mortos, but he doesn't win. Like,
Well, maybe he's going to eat the pins instead of Briscoe, and maybe Briscoe's going to come out of this looking
yeah,
better. You know what though? I don't even think who wins this or who loses this is my favorite part of what I'm looking at right here. Because what I'm
just the
looking at right here,
matchups.
list of some matches that we haven't seen yet that I am suddenly very excited about. Like
Yeah,
Juice Robinson versus Will Osprey.
yeah.
Fuck
What
around
a
and find
weird
out,
mismatch of that. Like,
dude.
the one that I'm most interested in, the ones that I'm most interested in, are Darby Allin versus Will Ospreay and Ricochet.
Oh yeah,
Like those two,
yeah,
I want to see those real bad,
yeah.
real
Or
bad.
I mean, if we're looking at the other side, Kazuchika Okada versus Shelton Benjamin.
Yes, give it to me. I want it.
Shelton
I
Benjamin
want it.
versus Beast Mortos. Like basically, I am like I could go through here and be like this guy versus Shelton Benjamin, and I'm going to
yeah,
be hyped for the match as soon as it's
yeah,
come out of my mouth. Like I
yeah.
am so ecstatic for this. Like
Yeah, oh, it's so good. Plus, you
WWE,
got
I
all
love
these.
you, but I really am going to be watching a lot more AEW over the next few weeks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, next 6 weeks are all going to be Continental Classic,
Yeah,
baby.
Continental
I mean,
Classic.
I cannot. I absolutely can't wait for some of these matches. I love, you know, it's weird. Like Americans tend to, in sporting events anyway, they tend to be single elimination tournaments. They don't usually do
Mm-hmm.
the round robin thing. That's much
Yeah,
more of a international, uh, European really thing.
yeah.
Um, they do that a lot more in their sports than we do in ours. So having this kind of tournament, it already feels unique.
Yeah.
WWE, to my knowledge, has never done anything other than a single elimination tournament. Sometimes you have buys, and sometimes people who are eliminated earlier have to fill in because somebody got injured, whether it's kayfabe or otherwise. But other than that, like they haven't even sniffed anything like this. So this automatically stands out, and you get, with the fields being put out ahead of time, although they did it in the worst way. Like, you're going to tell us that you're going to do this on a random Sunday night.
At
You're
10:30.
going to do it at 10:30 at night on YouTube. Like, this is like, I don't know who's running the show there on in terms of like social media and marketing or whatever, but like, you couldn't. I don't know. Like, I don't know why none of these names were like, you could have announced literally any of these ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't it didn't really matter. Like, I mean, maybe Ricochet,
Yeah.
maybe, but like, Danny Garcia is the TNT champion now. I
Yep.
don't see Jack Perry anywhere in this field, so it wouldn't have mattered. Like, I the world champion isn't even in it. Orange Cassidy isn't even in it, so it's not like you'd be giving away those results. Like, Ricochet is really the only one you can kind of make a case for, but even then, like, you could just have him enter as the international champion if you already had Danny Garcia entering as TNT champion. Why
Yeah.
not? Why the heck not? So, you've already set the precedent by putting Danny in there regardless. So, I guess my point is, like, you could have really built the hype by doing this 2 weeks ago on TV. So I don't know why you didn't. I mean, did you want to do the match with Darby and Claudio first, so that you could give him a chance to for Allen to seek a rematch? Because in the hype video that they said they announced Claudio first, and then they said that Darby entered the tournament specifically to counteract Claudio.
Yeah. So when did
So
you know? Like,
yeah, like I it regardless, despite the weirdness of how it was announced, I'm so hyped for this. Give it. I want to see literally every match combination. Like none of these sound like a bad match. Even the Juice Robinson matches, like I mean, he's so entertaining, even if he's not like to the level of a wrestler as some of these other guys. That like he's gonna make things entertaining. He's gonna be a guy who's eating a lot of pins for sure. But I mean, there's no chance in hell that Juice Robinson is winning the Continental Classic. But I guarantee you, he's going to pull something entertaining out of his butt, and
oh yeah,
he's going to
absolutely.
make it memorable, and he's going to add a little bit of levity to an otherwise very serious thing. And like, I'm here for it. I mean, look at the
Yeah.
just uh, the variety of styles and you know and experience in this tournament. It's
Yeah.
amazing. This is why I love. It's so funny. Like I posted on somebody's Blue Sky post. I can't remember who it was now, but they said, oh, I love this is my favorite time of the year, Continental Classic season. It's like there's only been one, so like the fact that you know he's saying this, he's calling it a season as if this isn't just the second one that they've ever held, as if it's something that's established with a long, rich history. The fact that I'm agreeing with him and saying, yeah, this is the best time of the year speaks to how good the first one was. So I'm so looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Super, super stoked.
Yeah, I am too, man. I'm super hyped about this one. I can't wait.
So I guess if I had one last thing to say on the Continental Classic is if you are one of our listeners who watches only WWE, I would recommend catching the matches online. Even you don't necessarily even need to watch the shows if you don't want to, but this tournament is worth your time. If you like wrestling, like the bell to bell stuff, this is gonna be like the best thing for the next month, guaranteed. You're gonna
Absolutely.
like what you see. And if you are, just an AEW stand, well, I mean, we're we're gonna be fed really well this month.
Yeah. Yeah, they sure are. I'm getting fed really well because I watch both. Um,
Yeah.
Shout out to NXT that I keep watching. Man,
Oh, you did watch this week.
I did watch that this week too. I watch NXT. I might just start watching it every week. It was good. It's a nice like hour that I can sit down and watch wrestling and know that I don't have to critically think about it at all. I
Yeah.
don't have to review it or anything like that. So I kind of just enjoy watching it. And their women's division goes hard. Like I can't say that enough. Like
Yeah.
their women's division goes fucking hard, man. I'm down. So um yeah, I like it a lot. But yeah, as far as like the Continental Classic here, I mean, yeah, I'm looking at this, I'm like Beast Mortos in one league, and I get all those matches with him, and then Juice in
Yep.
the other league, and I get all those matches with him. And I'm a huge fan of both of those guys. So regardless of what happens with them as far as winning or anything, this is a win for me. It's a win for everybody. I mean, just some of the match combinations that we get, everybody's gonna love. If I mean, and
Yeah.
also we're gonna see like how many of these guys are truly adaptable professional wrestlers
Yeah.
because there are wildly inconsistent value and varying of styles in this field on both sides, and it's going to be like a real like, hey man, like you kind of like it's kind of like a home cook going on Master Chef, like, all right,
Yeah.
you're good, but now we're going to throw you in a ring with 20 other people who are all equally good and do all different things than you do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I freaking love it.
Styles make fights, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. So
There
yeah,
are
I'm
lots of
into
different
it.
styles. You're going to see a lot of different fights.
I am ready for it. I am ready for it.
Me
So
too.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that about does it for me for the week.
Yeah. Yeah, that wraps this up. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. If you're old to the podcast, all 9 weeks of it. uh, Thank you for uh, your continued patronage. If you feel like helping us out, keeping the lights on a little bit, you want to support the podcast, our shop is online at smarkfoundationpodcast.printful.me. You can pick up a mug or a hoodie or a t-shirt with the logo that I did myself. Uh, if you have any other maybe suggestions, if you have any questions, comments, opinions, whatever, you can find us on Blue Sky. Uh, we ran those off at the top of the cast here. We would love, 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 love to hear from you, especially if you're as excited about the Continental Classic as we are, since that's the thing on our minds right now.
Hmm.
Uh, if you have any ideas for stuff that you want us to talk about on the show, let us know that too. We would absolutely love to be a little bit more interactive with our audience here.
Absolutely. If your idea is kicking enough, I might just bring you on the show. So think about that.
Yeah,
And also, I mean, just a little bit of housekeeping here. Um, Tomorrow is normally the day that the podcast goes up. It will still go up tomorrow. It may be just a little bit later than usual. Uh, I mean, of course, you won't know that until you hear it. But I'm
right.
driving back. So if you're wondering why the podcast was late today, I'm driving back from Colorado. As you're hearing this, I've probably made it home, but and uploaded the podcast. But I'm driving home from Colorado tomorrow, so the podcast will be up a little bit later. If you're wondering why it was up later,
What
also,
dedication, folks. Give him a round of applause. He's on the road and he's still made sure to
be
record
here.
something for y'all.
Just so everybody knows, we have mentioned it before, but I'm going to go ahead and reiterate it here. Over the Christmas and New Year's Eve area of time, we will be going ahead and shutting down the podcast for a couple of weeks while we spend some time with our families for the holidays and just
Yeah,
don't do this for a second. Um, Good news is that there will still be fresh content during that time. I'm going to go to YouTube and upload our mythical first episode, as well as a big old upload of all of our Call It in the Ring segments together. I might also do Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, and Collision reviews and pay per view reviews all in one big thing together. So we'll see those, but there will be content coming out from us over those 2 weeks. I'm going to do some video editing and stuff like that. And when we return for season two, we'll have all new YouTube screens and video layouts and all that stuff because I'm going to redesign and upgrade our look every season. So
oh,
we'll be cool with that. So that'll be some cool stuff we got going on that you'll be able to kind of see and kind of follow along our journey with us. There'll also be new merch for season two as well. So
ooh,
I'll be doing quite a bit of work over those 2 weeks that we're technically quote unquote off, but um, we won't actually be here recording. We're both going to spend more time with our family over the holidays. So just letting everybody know if you don't see a new episode for a couple of weeks towards the end of the year, we're just taking a break and we'll
yep,
come back
that
with
is by
season two
design.
after that. Yeah, that is by design. That's not an emergency or anything like that. We will be back later. So we really do appreciate everybody who's listening to us. We're getting a few more listeners from the United States. Welcome, friends. A couple people from the UK. Welcome to you as well. So it's good to see that our reach is expanding. Thank you, Blue Sky, again for kind of bringing us all together, Andy and Amy Nemedy. We really appreciate you guys. So
Absolutely. No question about it. My online experience as far as social media has improved dramatically since making the switch. Like I barely even look at Twitter online anymore. Like it's just I'm eventually probably just gonna I'll probably just deactivate my account, keep the domain so that nobody can like take it over and use it for evil. But
Right.
but yeah, I'm that they're calling it the bad place now, and you know
Yeah.
what? That's pretty accurate. But yeah, in any case, yeah, we will see slash hear slash whatever we interact with you.
We will talk to
You
you
will
all
hear
soon.
from us in a week's time. Let's
That's
call
true.
it that.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week, and thanks for listening.